He graduated from White Oak Secondary School in Oakville. He is currently the first year student at Western Ivy Business School, the AEO program. Eric has been awarded for 45,000, I believe, Canadian dollars, which is called President's Entrance Scholarship. And he's been, doing all kinds of clubs during his high school, which can include debates, DECA, and he's also a figure skate national level competitor. Cynthia is currently McMaster Life Science, and he got awarded for McMaster President Awards. He was also admitted by multiple schools, including U of T, Queens, and Western. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Eric.
Okay, brilliant. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out tonight. I definitely did not expect this turnout. We've got 125 people in this room right now. Jeez.
Actually, Eric, sorry for the interrupt.
Yeah.
我说一点中文哈，因为我不知道这个今天来的里面我们有没有这个大家可能对中文是不是感觉更亲切一些哈。那我们争取双语哈，因为我知道这个Cynthia是100%是双语啊，因为他是7年级来到加拿大，所以他的中文非常的好。那 Eric 应该也可以哈，但是可能中文没有 Cynthia 那么好，因为他是在加拿大长大的。那我用中文简单介绍一下他们两个哈。那他们两个都是 Linky 的毕业生。目前 Eric 是 Western White Oak 毕业的，然后Cynthia 是 Garswell， 那两个都是我们 Oakville 的这个当地的 Oakville 的高中哈。那 Eric 现在是在Western 大学，然后这个我们加拿大最著名的这个商学院 Ivy 啊。那当然他也被很多其他的商学院，基本上他横扫了加拿大所有的商学院哈。包括 Queen's Commerce， 包括 U of T 这些包括 McGill。那Cynthia 现在是 McMaster 的 Life Science， 那他将来的这个兴趣和他的这个专业的热情应该是在 medicine 就我们所谓的医药或医学这个领域里面。那同时他也获得了很多其他大学的 offer， 所以我觉得他是一个非常典型的一个榜样，尤其是对我们这些来加拿大在7年级、9年级这个期间来加拿大的孩子哈，我觉得 Cynthia 是一个非常好的一个榜样哈，就是我们所谓的这个第二语言的学生。那好，那我就不多说了，我们就把这个话筒交给 Eric。Eric, thanks.
Right. Alrighty, so we're up to 130 now. Thank you everybody for coming. I'm going to try my absolute best with the Chinese. 我说的中文不是特别好，所以我会我能说我就试着说呗。So tonight I'm going to be going over business school applications. Cynthia is going to take you through a little bit on medicine and science, and then I'm going to come back and wrap it off with a bit of conversation about scholarships. So, there we go. So, a little bit about our agenda. We're going to introduce ourselves, tell you a little bit about ourselves, 自我介绍一下, and then I'm going to talk about my high school story, 所以我在高中做了什么, and then we're going to talk about the business programs. Then Cynthia is going to take over. She'll tell us a little bit about her high school story, the applications to health side programs, and then I'm going to come back and we'll talk a little bit about scholarships. At the end, I think we will have some time to take some questions and we'll try our best to answer them. I am just going to ask that we save our questions for the end of the presentation. So that way we can get through the presentation nice and quick, and then we can deal with all of the questions at the very end. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I think Henry's already told you that I am a first-year student at Western. and I'm studying economics right now, and I do have the Ivy AEO status. And in case you're not 100% clear as to what that is, I'll go into that in just a little bit. I graduated this June from White Oak Secondary School in Oakville. And one of the big reasons why I chose to come to Western, amongst many others, was the fact that Western gave me the President's Entrance Scholarship. And this scholarship is valued at $50,000 over the course of 4 years. So definitely kind of a life-changing sum of money here. I love it here at Western. I'm having a really good time here. It's a beautiful campus. There's great teachers. You can see they're circled in the red actually on that picture there. That's one of my classrooms. I have my history classes there. So it really is a great experience all around. And I've been getting involved in a lot of clubs and groups at Western too. So I do consulting with the Management Consulting Club here. I'm involved as a first-year representative for kind of in student politics for my faculty. I'm involved with a tech and business club. I'm one of the directors in that club. And I'm also on the varsity figure skating team here at Western. So a lot of early morning practices, but I really love figure skating and it's one of my passions. Cynthia, your turn.
Okay. So hi guys, I'm Cynthia, and I'm currently a first-year student at McMaster University Life Science Gateway. And I graduated June 2020 from Garth Webb Secondary School, and I got the McMaster President's Award, which is like the entrance scholarship for people that's above 95%. But McMaster only gave us 2,500 for that, which is not that much compared to Eric's. And yeah, I've never been to campus for actually studying there, but I'm really looking forward for the lives in the campus. So yeah, get back into Eric.
Alrighty. So I guess I'm going to get us started with the business section of tonight. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I did in high school first to offer a bit of context. So 我先说一下我高中干了什么呗。So as I said earlier, I went to White Oak Secondary. I think I don't know if there's any White Oak students in here. Could be. If there are, hello, nice to see you guys. And that's in Oakville. So while I was at White Oaks, I did the IB program, so International Baccalaureate. And then I did the French Immersion Ontario diploma as well. So definitely academically a nice challenge. I was able to do that. And I wasn't all too good at it at first, right? In grade 9 and 10, I was averaging about an 86, 87 in all of my classes. Definitely quite a few 70s in there, you know, a few 90s, a few 70s, a lot of things in the 80s, right? So I was doing all right, but certainly nowhere close to being able to, I guess, get any kind of scholarship or get into like some of the better business schools, right? Or some of the better programs that we're going to be talking about tonight. I think for me, it was a little bit of difficulty with organization and also taking my work seriously, right? I wasn't really all that responsible for what I had to get done. Now, I got a lot better in the last 2 years of the IB program. So academically, I was more on top of things and I finished grade 12 with a 96% average. And I hope through tonight, maybe you guys will see that it's worth the time and effort to kind of focus on your academics and try and do as best as you can in that area as well, right? Some other scores that might give you a little bit of context as to how I was doing. I took the SAT in grade 12 and I finished with a 1550 on that. And then when I graduated from the IB program in June, I graduated with 42 out of the 45 points. So not a perfect score. White Oaks has had some perfect scores before, but I think it's fair to say that it's a pretty good score as well. And I'm just gonna admit. Okay. Next slide. There we go. Okay, so outside of school, what did I do? I think I was fairly busy in high school, so I did a lot of other extracurriculars as well. 所以我也做了挺多课外活动。现在说一下课外的做的东西呗。So I did figure skating, 花样滑冰. So I was a national level figure skater. By the end of my time in high school, I was ranked top 20 in Canada for the event that I was competing in. So definitely took me a lot of places. I went to nationals. I went to the Ontario Winter Games, and it was a pretty big time commitment, I would say. 花了很多时间, about 15 to 20 hours a week. So quite busy for sure. I also did DECA. That was probably one of my favorite activities in high school as well. I worked my way up through the ranks in DECA, and I finished my grade 12 year as the vice president of the largest chapter in Canada. So the White Oaks chapter actually has 400 people, had 400 people that year that we ran the club. So it was the largest chapter in the country. And it was a challenge and quite fun as well to run and organize. And I qualified to DECA Internationals in my grade 12 year, but unfortunately that was canceled due to COVID-19. I also did debate. So that was an activity that I did right here at Linked Key. That's how actually I got first involved here at Linked Key and got to meet Henry and all of the other great people here. So I debated with both Linked Key and White Oaks for varying periods of time. And I managed to place at various tournaments all across the country, get some awards here and there, Harvard, McGill, Waterloo, Western, all tournaments that I've kind of, I guess gone to. And then finally, volunteering and work. So I volunteered on a lot of Learn to Skate programs at my local rank. So I was pretty involved in that area. I was on a children's hospital advisory board in Hamilton, the McMaster Children's Hospital, if you've ever been there before. And then finally, I worked a part-time job at my rank. Nothing big, just to play music to make a little bit of, money on the side, I guess. So where did all of this take me? At the end of high school, I applied primarily to business programs. So Western, right here, I was accepted into the social science and science faculties there with the IVAO. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain in just a little bit as to what it is. I was also accepted to Queen's Commerce. I got into Rotman Commerce at the University of Toronto. I got into McMaster's business program. They just call it Business One. And then I got into the University of Waterloo. So the University of Waterloo runs a double degree with Laurier. You do computer science at Waterloo and you do business administration at Laurier. So I got into that program as well. I also did some American applications. That's not quite the focus of tonight, but I did have the luck of being waitlisted at the University of Chicago. And then I was rejected later on this October, but by then I was happily settled down here at Western. So I think with that, we're going to get started by talking a little bit about which business programs you would aim to go to if you were going to apply at all. So firstly, I think it's worth going over why you want to strive to be going to a good program, right? And I think for me, there's two things that are really worth thinking about here. And I've realized that I'm just doing a lot of this presentation in English here. So I think what we'll do is if anybody does have something that they don't understand and they want a bit more clarification, please do just unmute yourself, say it out loud, and then Cynthia or Henry can jump in and save me on that. Okay, so firstly, I think is reputation, right? So some fields you'll hear that reputation isn't as important. Fortunately or unfortunately, business is not one of those fields. So reputation in terms of what school you go to and what program you do does matter a good deal in business. It is important to go to a good school. And I think that'll become a little bit more clear as I go over the next section as well. Secondly, I think another big thing is program culture, right? Going to a good program just puts you into kind of a different environment, right? If you're going to one of the best programs in the country, you're also surrounded by very, very talented, smart, driven individuals, right? And you kind of push each other, right? Like all of my friends here at Western, like we know how to party, we know how to have fun, but like a lot of them also, like they're very smart, they work really hard, we'll compete on case competitions together, we'll study together, and we kind of push each other forwards, right? Like everybody's kind of maintaining high 80s, low 90s averages, right? And that's not an easy thing to do in university compared with high school. And finally, also things like clubs, right? A lot of clubs are student-led. I would say the great majority of them are student-led. Usually the teachers are fairly hands-off with stuff like that here at university. So, the more driven, I guess, the school students are, the better the extracurricular opportunities are going to be as well, right? And that's kind of the stuff I was talking about earlier with like varsity and the management consulting and the tech club and the student government roles that I have here at Western. So with that out of the way, let's talk about which programs are good. So I think with business schools, and now I think obviously the rankings can be a little bit subjective, right? Canada's rankings are not quite as clear as the US. You know, we don't have like those companies that kind of rank the schools like they do in the US. But I think in terms of the best schools in the country, it's generally agreed upon that the best undergraduate programs are Western Ivy or Queen's Smith Commerce. Why is that? I think, or like, why would you want to go there? I think firstly, it opens up a lot of doors for you, right? If you want to do something like investment banking in New York City or San Francisco, if you want to do consulting at a very big firm like MBB firms, right? So McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, those are kind of the big tier consulting companies, the high tier consulting
晒一
companies.
晚上还是拿
Oh. It's very difficult to get into these programs if you're located outside of these, right? The reason why this is, it's just kind of a numbers game, right? There's so few, these companies don't recruit very much, right? They recruit so few people that they don't have to go to other schools to get them, right? They can say, take 5 kids from Western, 5 kids from Queens, and call it a day. They're done, right? They don't have to go to like Rotman and York and Alberta and UBC to get their kids, right? They only need 10 of them. So there are some opportunities that are going to be very difficult for you to get if you don't go to kind of the top schools. These programs and these schools also do very well in terms of Canadian jobs, right? So the employment rates in this case are over 90% actually. They have the job reports posted online, and it's over 90% of people have jobs in their desired field after coming out of school. So definitely the graduates see a lot of success here at home in Canada. To go a little bit into the programs, they do work differently. So Ivy is what we would call a second entry program. So coming out of high school, you apply for AEO, which stands for Advanced Entry Opportunity. So that's the thing that I do have. And that guarantees you a spot at Ivy if you keep your average above 80% in your first 2 years at Western. You have 3 extracurriculars, and there's a few other requirements that you can meet. Now, you can study anything you want in your first 2 years, so do pick something that you like, and you're going to do better in it. And with AEO, I would say it's not too hard to get into Ivy. So if you look at the numbers, upwards of 90% of people that do have AEO make it into Ivy. So most people, or not even most people, pretty much everybody who has AEO goes into Ivy. A lot of people drop out because they decide it's not for them, but if it is for you, you have a very good chance of making it in. And I will say, right, sorry, I forgot, Queens is direct entry. So at Queens, if you get into Smith, you're in the business program and you do business for 4 years, right? So if you're kind of deciding which one of these top schools to apply to, then it is going to be a consideration for you, right? Do I want to kind of have those first years to study something more general and then focus in on business in the last 2, or do I want to do business over all 4 years at Queens, right? That's up to you. I will say if you're applying to Ivy, you want to have AEO. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Without it, you're going to need 84 to 85 in your first 2 years at university to get in. You're going to need strong extracurriculars, so not just kind of 3 random ones. You're going to need a very strong kind of extracurricular profile. Basically, it's a lot harder to get into Ivy if you don't have AEO. So I would recommend that if your goal is to go to Ivy, and that's the picture right there. It's a gorgeous building. Looks really great from the inside too. If you do want to go to Ivy, then try your best to get AEO. The acceptance rates for these programs, Canadian schools aren't quite as public about their acceptance rates, as opposed to like the US ones where you can search them up on Google and stuff. But kind of from sources that I've heard from, and I spent a good amount of time searching online to get some sources for this presentation, the acceptance rates are about, I think Queens is about 6 to 7%, Western is about 7 to 8%. So they're mid-single digit acceptance rates. And we'll go to the next slide. So moving kind of down our list of business programs, the 3rd best business school in the country is McGill. Most people would agree that McGill is the 3rd best business school in the country. I would say it's a target as well. I think you have slightly less of those really kind of high finance down in the States or MBB consulting jobs, but you still got a shot at them. And there really is no trick to getting into McGill. That's the funny thing about it. So McGill is different from practically every other school that we're looking at today, or every other really good business school in the country, on the fact that they admit purely based on marks. So if you have a 95 plus average, you can get into McGill. And basically what they do is they just rank everybody and they go, okay, who's got the highest marks? We're going to let them in. They don't even ask what extracurriculars you did. They don't care. So if you want to get into McGill, get your mark up as high as you possibly can. Commerce has one of the highest entering averages out of all the programs at McGill. So I would say you're looking at 96, 97. It's a pretty tough program to get into in terms of the academics that you have to do, but you can really focus down on those academics. Some other programs, so I would say the next kind of tier of programs, we'll call them like semi-targets, right? So they're good programs, but not as good as the top three, right? So Waterloo has AFM. And they also have the double degree, the commerce/computer science or commerce/math that they do in collaboration with Laurier. Toronto has the Rotman School. Laurier has its own business program. So there is a business program at Laurier, although you can choose to do the double degree with Waterloo as well. It's up to you. And then there's also UBC and York. So this is kind of like the semi-targets of our country. And then finally, some programs that are not as good as the top three or the ones underlined there that I just said, but are still better than, like, I guess, all of the other programs would be Western's BMOS. So that's Western's own business program outside of Ivy. Western kind of has two business programs running alongside each other. Ivy is the much better one. BMOS is like the kind of okay one. If you can apply for Ivy and you get into Ivy, go to that instead of BMOS. And then U Alberta and U Calgary, I think, would also crack this list. So kind of what do these semi-targets, what opportunities do they give you, right? So firstly, I think it's significantly more difficult to break into the really big jobs, especially down in the US, right? I would say not impossible, but very hard to try and cross the border from any of these schools that I've just brought up. The programs do vary in competitiveness. So some programs have single-digit acceptance rates. So the Waterloo double degree, the CS, and then Laurier BBA one that I applied for, U of T Rotman, those are single-digit acceptance rates. I think Rotman, when I went to the admitted student seminar, they said it was 8%. And then there's others that admit based off of flat mark cutoffs, right? So it's kind of different in terms of competitiveness. I believe to get into BMOS at Western, high 80s is good enough. So there's definitely a wide range of how competitive the schools are within this bracket. I kind of had to bunch them all up in the interest of time. But if you're applying to these programs, I would say Waterloo and Toronto, Laurier, UBC, and York, way better than like these three, Western, Alberta, Calgary, and those are way better than like anything else in the country. They do get decent placements in Canada. You get decent placements in Canada. Like you can definitely work at, say, Big Four accounting firms. They're very good at accounting. You can definitely do things like human resources, marketing, stuff like that. Like you'll find good jobs in Canada if you work hard during your time there. A lot of these schools also have specific strengths, right? So Waterloo's AFM program is really good at quantitative finance. So that involves a lot of numbers, right? And that's largely because Waterloo has such a strength in math. Their double degree does quite well in technology if you do the CS BBA double degree. There's a lot of people in that program that end up making it down to San Francisco. Rotman is right in downtown Toronto, so they've got a good strength in that area, and there are a lot of Toronto companies that will recruit from Rotman, although they also take much more Ivy and Queens kids. U Alberta and Calgary are really good for the energy industry, right? Because Alberta has all of the oil and the natural gas and stuff. So if you're going to those two schools, perhaps you might look into working at the energy industry one day. There are going to be probably less recruiters on campus. The caliber of the students might be like a little bit lower. Sorry. And the extracurriculars available might also be a little bit more limited, right, compared to the top business programs. So it does force you to work a little bit harder to get the same kinds of opportunities, right? But so definitely if you've been working really hard in high school, you can save yourself, I guess, a bit of work in the future, right? You don't have to hustle as hard in the future to get the same opportunities if you've put in your time here in high school. So where do you want to end up, right? That's the big question. That picture on the right side is the inside of the Ivy Business School. It's a lovely building, and they definitely furnished it with very expensive furniture from what I've heard. Unfortunately, we can't go inside as first and second years, and even the kids that go to Ivy right now can't go inside because it's virtual, COVID, right? So if you're aiming for kind of a weaker one of these semi-target programs, or McGill Commerce, because McGill does things differently, then just search up the acceptance averages, right? They're all public online, right? Like if you look at, say, I remember York for their Schulich program, it's low 90s, and you have a very good shot at getting in, right? For some of these stronger semi-targets like Rotman, for example, or the Waterloo program, the extracurriculars can be a really good way to strengthen up your application, right? So they would rather take a kid with 90% and good leadership in their community, good leadership in their school, or demonstrated success in academics, or sorry, not academics, demonstrated success in, say, I don't know, the arts or like sports, over somebody with a 95 who's done nothing in terms of that. And then for the most competitive programs, your extracurriculars are kind of the way to cull the field, right? Like if you're applying to Ivy and Queens, it's almost kind of assumed that you'll have done something to set yourself as a leader, but there's just too many good people, right? So they kind of cull off the field by taking a look at your extracurriculars. If everybody has the marks, then they're taking a look at your ECs. And actually Queens, the way they do this, at Ivy, it is half marks, half scores. But at Queens, if you're above an 87 in terms of your average, they don't look at your marks beyond that. Above an 87, everybody is basically the same, and they look exclusively at the application that you hand in. So it's really important that you have good extracurriculars and good writing skills as well in order to be able to express yourself. So what I'm going to do now is and I think I'm running okay on time, is I'm going to walk you through kind of step by step what you have to do to set yourself up for a very good chance at Ivy and Queens, a great one at Rotman and Waterloo, and basically like nothing's ever guaranteed in life, but as close as you can get to guaranteed acceptance to most of the other schools in the country, right? In terms of business. And I'm going to start from grade 9 because I'm not 100% sure as to what the audience is here. I remember going to one of the linked key sessions as I think maybe a grade 11 or a grade 10 and seeing elementary school kids in the audience. So I know some of you guys out there really want to start early. So I've tailored this advice to start early. Grade 12s, you might just have to wait a little bit for the essay advice. Sorry about that. Okay, so our elementary and grade 9 students, you want to set yourself up to succeed, right? You're sort of starting out in high school. So one good thing that you should probably think about is what high school / what program you're going to go to, right? So programs like IB and AP allow you to go above and beyond with your academics and distinguish yourself from the crowd, right? You're kind of taking on an extra challenge, and schools like to see that. Obviously, you need to choose something that's appropriate for you. So if you're already struggling academically, in elementary school, then it might not be a good idea for you to go into a program known for its academic rigor, right? It's not a must to do this. Definitely, for example, I know a lot of people just don't have these kinds of schools. If you're from a small town, you just don't have this kind of program in your town, right? Doing well in the Ontario secondary diploma can work just fine. And there's plenty of OSSD kids that get into these programs as well. But there are a lot of IB and AP kids, I will admit. Like from what I've seen here at Western, a lot of people have done some sort of challenge, whether that be IB or AP, much more than the general population for sure. You should also try and get involved in a few extracurriculars if you're in grade 9, right? You've just come to high school. There's definitely going to be a lot of clubs at your school compared to elementary school. So get involved in a few of them, right? Grade 9 is a year of discovery for a lot of people. So don't feel like you need to know what you want to do, right? Because, obviously it takes a bit of time to figure that out, but definitely do get out there and try, right? It's okay for you to not know what you want to do, but it's not okay for you to just like sit around and accept that, right? You have to go out and try to figure out what you want to do. And by the end of the year, the goal is to identify 2 or 3 things that you think you could put a lot of effort to, right? So find, say, 2 or 3 things that you're like, okay, I really like this. I'm really interested in this. It's something that I would love to keep doing, right? So for me, that was my figure skating, my debate, and DECA. I was doing all of those in my grade 9 year. And I kind of was like, you know what? I like where I am. I'm happy doing them. So After that, is there something that you think you could be really good at, right? If there's something that you think you could be really good at, you want to have an idea of that, right? And focus down on that a little bit more, right? So for me, it was kind of the figure skating, right? Because by grade 9, I was already competing nationally. So for me, that was kind of the one thing I think I was pretty good at, right? And I'm going to go a little bit further into detail on the next page about that. I think it's also important that you sort of commit to your journey ahead, right? To know what you want. If you want to go to a very good school, or heck, if you want to go to like an Ivy League, that's a decision that you have to make pretty early. You want to start early. One of my friends, one of my close friends from White Oaks, she actually got into Harvard last year. So she did very, very well. And the moral of the story, starting early, like when I was talking with her in grade 9, she was already kind of like, look, I want to try and apply to some of these great, like really great US schools. So definitely, I think the earlier you start, the more of an advantage you have to other people. Know what you want, and then you'll know what you have to do and what you have to work towards. And finally, you know what? I know this sounds like a lot, but you can spread it out over an entire year. And honestly, I think it's pretty fun, right? Like if you decide to come into Link Key and you do debate and you do DECA and you try out the robotics program as well, right? And what I really like about Linked Key is the fact that they've got all of these extracurriculars under one roof, right? So you can literally come here for one afternoon and discover like 2-3 new things, right? Make some friends. Don't stress too much about things. A lot of this is going to be fun, right? I know that moving from elementary school to high school can be a really big change. So that's why it's definitely not like you have to know exactly what you want to do. You have to start winning things. No, that's not the expectation, right? Figure out what you want to do, figure out something that you might be good at, try new things, and then spend the rest of the year just making sure that you're well adjusted to your high school. You know, you've got a support network of friends that you can fall back on and hang out with. You know, it's supposed to be kind of a, you know, it's not supposed to be a hard year. We're supposed to ease you into high school, I guess. So don't stress too much in grade 9. Okay, grade 10 and grade 11, now's the time where you got to start working a little bit, right? You've settled into your school, you've made your friends, you've found the things that you really like. Now it's time to start putting some effort in, right? So firstly, start getting those marks up, right? In grade 9, obviously, I know when you're transitioning from elementary to high school, a lot of people are going to see their marks drop, right? Adjusting to high school can be sort of tricky. Sorry about that. I'm seeing some questions here in the chat. I'm just going to try and ask those, like handle those afterwards, just because, or I will give out my email afterwards as well, in case you guys do have some questions for me, just because it is difficult for me to talk and type at the same time. So, oh, whoops, looks like I've skipped a slide here. So back to our advice for grade 10s and grade 11s. Start getting your marks up, right? So now that you're settled into your high school, it's time to get working, right? And you should take this time to start building up your organizational skills, building up your sort of self-regulation, right? Making sure that you're putting your homework and your studies, you're putting some importance on them, right? Because they do matter. And by grade 11, you should aim to have your marks at where they need to be for your program, right? So if you're applying to say Ivy and Queens, then you want to be pretty much more or less at that 95, right? If you're applying to a program that needs low 90s, then you want to be at that low 90s, because when grade 12 comes around and you've got all of the stress of applications and applying for scholarships and all of that, because it takes a lot of time, then you don't want your academics to be causing you any issues as well, right? You want to make sure you've got that down pat. Stick with your extracurriculars, right? So I'm not telling you to do things that you don't like, obviously. It's important that you like what you're doing, but try to avoid jumping around and around and around, right? Sustained commitment in one club is going to give you better results. It can take a lot of years to rise to the executive level at a lot of clubs, just because there's a whole line of people in front of you who came here first into the club, right? And they want their turn as the president and the vice president. So it can take you a bit of time to get good. What I would recommend you also do is try and focus on a spike, right? So if you're really good at something, go and focus on that thing. Like, don't be afraid to spend more time on that thing, right? I spent 15 to 20 hours a week on figure skating. That's a crazy amount of time. That's almost like a day, right? I don't know how I did it, but I competed nationally, which is kind of unique, right? It distinguishes me from a pool of like thousands of kids who did DECA, right? You can definitely get into Canadian programs with solid, consistent involvement, right? So you can sort of take a more well-rounded approach, do 2 to 3 good extracurriculars, have some good marks, maybe do a little bit of volunteering. But if you have a spike, you want to go and distinguish it, right? Like I think I had a spike there in my figure skating, right? And I focused a little bit on my DECA and debate. And I think I turned them into sort of small spikes, right? Because I did okay at that too. Now, if we're talking about people that get into, say, like the Ivy League down in the States, those are people with huge spikes, right? You're talking people who focus down on one thing, like say they're really interested in physics, right? They do a lab, they do an internship at a lab, they co-publish a paper, they go to the Intel Science and Engineering Fair, they do the US Physics Olympiad. That's a ton of focus on physics, but Harvard probably isn't going to care that much if our kind of physics genius doesn't volunteer that much, right? Because they're so good at physics that maybe they could change the world one day, right? And universities want those kinds of people if you're applying to the really good universities. And I know I'm going a little bit off track, but it's a great article. If you're thinking of trying to apply to Harvard and the Ivy League, you can search it up. It's called How to Get into Harvard and the Ivy League. It's from this website called Prep Scholar. Just one article that I found kind of helpful in terms of explaining this idea of focusing down on the things that you're really good at, because it makes you a stronger applicant. Okay, right. So for me, definitely, I think I have to say a little bit of a thanks here to Henry. Firstly, a big thanks to my parents for actually putting me into these programs and allowing me to develop these interests. And also thanks to Henry for having this place, right? I did Linked Key debate here was really one of my big, strong extracurriculars. And the tutoring that Linked Key ran here kind of saved me in my grade 11 math program because I took that while I was in grade 10. And I am not the world's best mathematician. So honestly, again, really great to have everything here under one roof. Okay, grade 12. This is your home stretch. Don't stop now. Cynthia has some good information on OAC and which marks are used in your application. It's the same for business. It's pretty much the same. You take your top 6 and you have to fill out the OAC forms. But for more general advice, your marks have to be perfect this year. So this is the time for you to push yourself as hard as you can. If you think you're a few % off from that minimum cutoff for a program, try and see if you can make it because you're going to thank yourself in the future one day, right? Lead with confidence now. So you've worked really hard. You've put in all of the time. And now you've got a leadership role or two to show off. So be a leader, right? Do your thing. You know what you're doing, right? Have a little bit of confidence in yourself. And now your essays, they matter. They're big. Start early. Your university essay is probably going to be one of the most important essays you'll ever write. So you want to give a good representation of yourself and what you've done. Take a little bit of time to make sure that you're doing yourself justice in what you say. Also, do them. Some schools are going to say that their essays and supplementals are optional. But as long as you've done any kind of extracurricular, if you've done anything outside of your schoolwork, it's in your best interest to fill the form out and tell the school a little bit about those extracurriculars. A few more essay writing tips. To a certain degree, it is also how you present what you've done, not what you've done that's really important, right? Like schools like Ivy and Queens get a lot of qualified candidates, but some of them can tell the school about what they did better than others. So first, really easy here, use up your word count. Right? They don't give you that many words. I'm sure you can find something meaningful to fill up that box, right? Secondly, where you can, show, don't tell, right? You can summarize at the end, but you have to show, right? So describe how you stayed up all night to make sure that, I don't know, your charity event would run smoothly, right? Instead of being like, I worked really hard for my charity event. How, right? It would be much better if the admissions officer kind of looks at it and they're like, wow, really? She stayed up all night to make sure that her event would run smoothly. Like she works really hard and she's really dedicated, right? If they can come to that conclusion to themselves, that's kind of a sign that your writing is really well done. You can also summarize it at the end, right? So at the end of your essay, you can maybe say, I don't know, working on this charity project for my local food bank taught me the importance of commitment and hard work in whatever I do, right? Also, don't just list off your activities and your awards and your time spent each week, right? Or don't just give us kind of a bit of a resume, right? You have to go further. What did you accomplish in this role, right? What sort of lasting impact did you create? If you can give us some numbers in terms of what you did, if you can go into detail about the changes or the impacts that you had, then it makes your case all that much stronger because it's like not only was she a leader in her community, but she took her leadership role and she actually did something with it, right? You can also talk about what you learned, right? Are you a better person? Are you a more resilient person for having done this extracurricular, having done this activity? right? These schools want to see a person that's open to learning new things, that's open to taking in information and kind of changing based off of that, right? They want to see somebody who's working to improve themselves. So if you can show that, then that's good for you. Also, what can you offer? Can they trust that you'll succeed? Can they trust that you'll be able to add into their campus community, right? So for example, on my Western application, I spoke about how my sense of determination and hard work that I got from my figure skating would guide what I did at Western. And I was very explicit that I planned to get involved with varsity sports. I wanted to get involved with student government because I liked that power of sort of being able to make a change for the communities I was a part of. And I wanted to get involved with the business clubs, obviously, to sort of start my career a little bit early, right? Finally, please, 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 no grammatical mistakes, right? Also, if you can, try and distinguish yourselves. So DECA is a great topic, but when you're applying to business schools, it can be a little cliche. Now, I'm not saying don't write about it, because I'm sure you have important contributions to your school's DECA team if you're involved in it, right? But don't write, say, 3 essays about DECA, right? 1 essay about DECA, 1 essay about your volunteering, and 1 essay about your sports, or something like that, right? Don't write all 3 of your essays on the same thing, especially if it's a really kind of common thing, right? Finally, get a reader. Have somebody else check over your essays. You'll find that they have good feedback. English teachers are great for this. Your parents can give you some help too with your essays sometimes, right? Find people that you think are competent and can give you good feedback, and ask them to read over your essay. It will help a lot. Okay, a little bit more personal advice from my experiences in high school. This is a bit more general. So start the process early. There's a good deal more work than you'd expect. And some stuff like getting teacher recommendations can be surprisingly kind of energy and time consuming. Also, do what you like. Extracurriculars are important, but they shouldn't be a chore. Now, I'm a little cautious on this because I know that resume padding is a valid strategy. I've seen people make it work. I know you can make it work, but I think it's in your best interest because you'll have a lot more fun on the way to your really good program if you pick things that you genuinely enjoy, right? So parents, if you can, let your kids experiment around a little bit. And kids in the room here, I hope you like what you're doing, right? And if you do, that's awesome. And if you don't, and you're at a point where it's smart for you to switch around and try some new things, consider doing that. Also, remember the reward. That's kind of a tactic that I find works for me. At times, things are going to get hard. They're kind of going to suck, right? So you have to remember what you're working towards, right? For me, I thought about going to university and getting a fresh start. I thought about university parties and having to do some stupid stuff and drinking with people. And I thought about meeting with like-minded, smart, really driven students, right? And now that I'm in university and now that I am kind of living that life, I think about having a satisfying career, right? And one day having a career that challenges me intellectually and allows me to keep using my, critical thinking skills and come into work every single day and face a new challenge, right? And that's why I'm interested in management consulting. And also having the finances, right? To do a little bit more of what I want to do, right? If I want to go on a trip somewhere one day, I'd like to be able to afford that. Make time for yourself. Deliberately schedule in a bit of time to socialize, to play a game, to go for a walk or something, right? If you're really strapped on time, try and cut down the amount of time that you spend kind of wasted on your phone scrolling through TikTok or something like that, right? But do deliberately schedule in a bit of time to do things that are for you, right? Better to schedule some relaxation time than be forced to take it when you burn out, right? Because that is a real thing that can happen to you. Finally, hand it in and forget about it. I see so many people who stress themselves about the application after it's gone. What's the point, right? It's gone. You can't do anything about it. They're reading it and they're going to decide. You won't know until the application date. So don't bother stressing about it. Focus on what comes afterwards and remain patient. Okay, Cynthia, your turn.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Cynthia. Before you take over, can I maybe spend 5 minutes just to translate Eric's slides in Chinese Mandarin?
Yeah, of course. Henry, do you want me to go back to the start?
Yeah, please. 我这样哈，我们因为我知道可能我们有好多来的这个家长或者我们的这个同学，也许觉得中文更亲切哈。我大概花几分钟时间，很快，我想把 Eric 的 讲的东西啊，我认为比较重要的哈，我用中文稍微 highlight 一下哈。那一开始就是他在这个讲他的这个学习方面哈。9年级、10年级、11年级、12年级，那这个地方其实我想跟大家提醒一下哈，就是你能看到 Eric 他有一个很重要的一个，他叫 uptrend， 就是说它是一个向上的趋势，他的成绩从9年级到10年级到11年级，它是一个向上的趋势哈。这个时候，这个有的时候是非常重要的，有的时候甚至比你那个绝对的分数更重要哈。那 SAT 的1550分。很多家长可能没有概念哈，1550分是什么意思？1550分是非常好的一个成绩啊，基本上美国的常春藤，我们俗话说所谓大藤啊，哈佛、耶鲁、普林斯顿这个分数是够的。好，我们下 next one please.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. There we go.
OK, figure skating 这是他的所有的 extracurricular 我们叫课外活动哈。那 Eric 的 figure skating 是国家级的，是 national level 啊，所以很厉害。当然，他也讲他投入了很多时间啊，每周大概15到20个小时。那debate Eric 是我们的这个绝对的黄埔17哈，这第一批的学员，我印象非常非常清楚。刚刚他来 debate 的时候，我们当时就认为他是我们这个里面的这个 rising star 啊，未来之星啊，果然如此。Next one。这个我们就不说了，这是大学哈，往下 next one。OK， 他讲的就是基本上从商学院的角度上来讲呢，加拿大基本上大家认为 Ivy 可能是这个最好，然后 follow by Queens 啊，这个大概是前2名。当然，有的人可能不一定所有人都对这个排名有一模一样的认识哈，但是不管怎么样这几个学校肯定是在加拿大是最好的。这个商科的学校哈，那就包括 Western， 包括 Queen's Commerce， 包括刚才我们提到的这个 McGill， 然后U of T 的 Rodman 哈 ，Next page，U of T 的 Rodman， 包括Eric 也讲到的这个 Laurier， 就是滑铁卢大学对面的那个学校哈，UBC 约克大学的这个Schulich School 也是很好的。其他的我就不讲了。好，我们往下。OK， 那这个地方其实很重要了，就是说你的EC 啊，就是这个 extracurricular， 就是我们所谓的课外活动哈。那下面那个 slides 其实 Eric 也在讲，就是你一定要有一个 spike。这个 spike 的意思是什么？就是说你可能不需要就是在每一个领域里面都做得很好 ，right？ You don't need to be good at everything, but you need to be really, really good at one thing。就是你一定要在一个地方做得非常好啊，这个就是你的 spike， 或者我们管它叫独角兽，或者我们管它叫针尖儿，就是你一定要有一个很尖的一个特长，让你能够区别于别人，让你能够这个脱颖而出哈，因为这个竞争。尤其是我们讲的这些像 Eric 今天讲的这种 Ivy 这个 Western Ivy 这样的学校尤其是像比如说美国的一些常春藤学校，竞争非常激烈有可能会越来越激烈所以这个 build 这个 spike 我们所谓叫针尖或者叫独角兽这个是他讲的Eric, can you go back to your grade 9?
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Yeah， 这个地方就是很多朋友和家长其实都来问我是说，我的小孩现在8年级、9年级，我应该做什么？我应该做什么？我觉得 Eric 这个地方其实他讲了他自己的一些经验，我觉得讲得非常好。How come the screen turns blank? Is it just me or?
Oh, there we go. Here.
OK，就是我觉得孩子们一定要在9年级的时候就开始去思考了哈。另外就是他在讲了一个就是一定要早。那他也在讲了他一个同学这个被哈佛大学录取的一个同学就是很早就开始做准备。那你越早做准备， 你的这个优势会越多哈。那很多学生和家长到了11年级的时候开始说，哇，我应该这个想怎么做？坦白讲，我有时说的跟大家比较坦诚，就是说，有的时候确实是来不及哈。当然你可以做，尽可能的多做，但是很多事情是需要一个相对长期的一个积累啊。那么9年级的时候，就是说，尤其是你要去想一下我的这种 extracurricular， 就我们所谓的这种课外活动，或者说你的特长，你应该需要做什么啊？OK，let's go to the next one。那10年级跟11年级的时候呢，其实 Eric 在这个地方他讲到了，就是说 stick with your extracurricular 这句话的意思，其实我们用中文讲，就是说你应该从宽度变成一个深度哈。就是说我之前可能去涉猎了很多领域哈。那他也讲，就是说，比如说 Linky 这样的我们这样的学校哈，我们基本上提供所有大家能够想到的这种课外活动，或者我们叫 extracurricular。那你在9年级之前，你可以来做这种宽度，就是说你可以做很多尝试，因为孩子他是不知道自己喜欢什么的。那唯一的方法就是让他去多做这样的尝试啊。那到了10年级，甚至尤其11年级之后，你这些宽度一定要把它变成一个深度，因为就像我们刚才说的，就是说你不需要把所有的事情全部做的出类拔萃，也不太可能，但是你需要把一件事情做得非常的出色和突出哈。这个就是他这个地方讲的叫 spike 啊 ，big spike。OK，let's go to the next one。essay 哈 essay， 真正的在最后大学申请的时候，很多人问我什么最重要啊？那尤其到了12年级的时候，坦白讲，我觉得最重要的就是 essay。我很有幸哈，读过 Eric 的 essay 哈，他这个分享给我看哈，我觉得 Eric 的 essay 是我看到过的让我最激动的一篇 essay 之一哈。我看完 essay 之后是这个热血沸腾啊，有点这种拍案叫绝的这种感觉，写得非常棒哈。那正好在这个时候我跟大家预告一下，我们下周5同样的时间哈，我们有一个workshop 就是有一个工作坊啊，不是纯的 seminar。很多时候大家说你们这个 seminar 只是讲啊，那我们下周是这个光说不是光说，我们是边说边练哈。workshop 就是 essay writing 啊。2个主持人是 Brent， 就我们的debate 主教练，也是国家 debate 的加拿大国家 debate 队的教练。他是被耶鲁大学录取的。那另外一个主持人呢是 Doris， 他现在在这个康奈尔大学哈，由他们2个人主持，就是专门给我们讲这个 essay writing 啊，这是一个 workshop， 他们可能会举很多很具体的例子，就是这个 essay 怎么样写，什么样是好的，什么样是认为不太理想的 essay 哈，大家可以这个我们可能现在还没有发通知，那可能很快就通知就会出去哈。大家可以留心一下。好，OK，let's go to is there another one? Yeah， Eric personal advice， 我觉得非常棒啊，很诚恳，然后毫无保留的把他的自己的这种经验给大家讲哈，就是一定要这个早啊 ，start the process early， 然后做你喜欢做的事情，就像我刚才说的。很多时候孩子们不知道，甚至家长也不知道那这个过程其实是一个尝试的过程，是一个你去我们叫 explore， 就是去探索去发现的这样的一个过程哈。然后做好计划 make time for yourself， 做好 plan， 做好你的越早越开始，你这个计划可能会越慢慢的会越成熟哈。OK， next one。
It's over to Cynthia now.
Okay, all right. So Cynthia, it's your turn. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you guys for joining us today. And I am Cynthia. I'm graduate from Garth Webb Secondary School. I am an ESL student. I came to Canada after grade 6, which is like elementary school in China. I took ESL courses in grade 8 and 9 for the first semester, and I got it out, which I'm really proud of myself. I skipped a grade, which is grade 7, because of the education system works pretty different over here in China. And yeah, like Eric, my average in grade 9 wasn't that too good. I began my average as at 87%. The main thing is I couldn't understand the science or math or like geography things or essay writing in grade 9. I have no clue what the teacher's talking about. I have no clue what my classmates saying, but I made it. I graduated with a 96 average from my high school. I am really proud of that. Also, for my school clubs, I joined the band in grade 9. I made a lot of friends over there. I am a flute player as well as a clarinet, saxophone, and piano player. And also I'm a part of the linker member in the school, which is like a really good skills for practice of your leadership. It's like welcoming your grade 9s. If you can look into that in your schools, it's really helpful for your English practice ability and then how you organize peoples together. And as well, I'm a part of the HOSA team. So it is a program I'm going to talk about later. It's really good program. It works similar than DECA, but it's not like that popular till now. Yeah, next slide. Thank you. Okay, yeah, so something further about my high school, I have a lot of extracurricular. I volunteered in Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital. If you live in Oakville, it's like the new hospital over here. I started it in the beginning of grade 9, I believe. And I used to be a piano player in the front lobby. If you've ever been there, you see a really big grand piano. That's where I used to play the piano. And after the beginning of like half a year, I get into the transport volunteer. It's like I actually get in touch with the patient. I actually like I can actually go through the hospital. And it's actually one of the best things that I've ever been in my high school. It gives me so much like experiences of the lives in like what the lives in like hospital looks like. And I get to know like people's how they work in hospital, how the patient looks like how do I involve in those type of things. If you can apply to the volunteers about that area, try to do it because it's one of the best thing for people who consider medical as their future career. And also, yeah, I do skate also. I used to be a skate Oakville Can Skate PA in grade 9 and 10, also grade 8 when I was in Prince Edward Island. And I also have a part-time job. I'm a pizzeria server and I'm still a pizzeria server right now. I started that in grade 10. I'm also a part of a school band. I did it like all the way through my high school, and we've achieved many gold and silver medals in the music festival. And it's once again, it was one of my best decisions ever. I love the teachers. I love my friends. They've never it's just like one of my best experience. And other activities and achievements. Yeah, so I'm really into music and piano. So I've been in the Peel Festival. I got third place winner for that, and I was nominated for Mary Gardner Award of Performance Excellence Senior Level. And as well, I did a lot of hobbies. I am a artist. I do snowboarding. I'm a tennis player. Yeah, things like that. 所以我讲一下这个我的高中生活吧，就是我是在 Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital 做一名义工的，然后我在9年级的时候进入了这个领域，所以说这相当于是我的一个启蒙吧。在9年级的时候呢，是我偶然得到的一个机会，是说可以去医院里边弹钢琴，在那个一进门的三角钢琴那块儿。然后呢，在我干了差不多小半年之后，我就觉得我觉得我在医院的生活就觉得我很想了解更多有关于医院的东西，所以我就开始去 apply 的一个叫做 transport volunteer。在这个职位里边呢，你是可以去真正去接触到病人和接触到医院里边层面的东西的。也就是说，我看有人让我语速放慢点啊，不好意思。也就是说，我们会更多的去了解到医院里边的每一件事情。这是对于像学生非常想进到这个医药领域啊，或者是这种方面的领域，是一个非常好的一个经验，你可以去慢慢的累积起来。哪怕你将来是觉得说，哦，在医院的这些经验我不喜欢，那没关系，你也是有过这么个经历，它不会让你有任何的负面的作用。然后我是从10年级开始一直有一份兼职的，我是在披萨店里一直有一份兼职的。其他的话我有很多兴趣爱好，像钢琴啊、滑冰啊、打网球啊、滑雪啊，就跟很多人一样，我其实也是兴趣爱好非常广泛啊。Next slide. Okay, so now we actually start to look into medical and science programs. Which ones? So a lot of questions or like I've got from people and I was really confused about is McMaster, Health Science or Life Science Gateway. These two things sound so familiar to me and I have no clue what are they. So I did a bunch of research and I got into Life Science Gateway and explain that a little bit later. But just introduce about these two programs. McMaster Health Science is one of the one of the hardest programs I believe in Canada to get in. There's so many people apply to this program every single year. So the degree of this one is the Bachelor of Health Science honors degree. Oh, addition to that, for science or medical field, we don't really look at that much about the reputation because you just finish your major and you apply to the second, like the further education. So the acceptance admission average is above 90%. Usually people get in there with at least 95%, and it's a 4-year directly entry programs. So the reason why it's really competitive, it's because it has such a high successful rate once you get in there and you apply to medical school. Because this program is the one that designs for prep you to go to medical related fields. So it's much easier to get a higher GPA than the other programs, for example, like life science. And it has like a lot of opportunities for you to learn, do research, having courses just directly about like medical fields. So in comparison to that, McMaster Life Science Gateway is considered as one of the 4 gateways. So this is the program that offers you specialization in level 2. So you can choose your specialization. I believe there's like about 20 specialization that's offered in your level 2. So do look into that if you're really interested in that. And the admission average is about 87%. But the people I know are all having an average at least 92%. I don't know why is that happening, but people having really high GPAs in university as well. So it's the specialized program may include co-op or may not. And the things you're going to learn in the first year is more like general science. So for now, I'm taking chemistry, biology, physics, math, psychology, like things like that. I'm learning every single science subjects you can possibly imagine. So yeah, this is a science gateway for people who doesn't know what they actually want to be and up like finishing university. So you can have a year off to just think about, oh, do I like this course better? Am I good at biology? Am I good at chemistry? Do I really want to be in like medical schools after this? Or like I want to think about something else. So that's why I get into Life Science Gateway. So I do want to have a year to think about what am I really good at? Am I really thinking medical school is what I want to really get into? So that's why I end up being here. So this is the website I have over here. If you want to take a look at closer details about Life Science Gateway. Next slide. I think.
So I guess I just clicked on it. It looks a bit like this. So
Yeah.
mapsci.ca.
Yeah. So you can have like 3 options. Yeah. So this is a screenshot of this map looks like. So you can see there's so many choices beyond the first year. You can have a look. So I'm planning to go to molecular biology and genetics, and I really hope that I can get in there. And yeah, next slide. The other things, oh, I think I forgot to talk. Sorry, could you go back, please?
Yeah,
like to the
first one, the map.
yeah. 不好意思，我用中文讲一下啊，就是在 McMaster 这个大学，我收到过最多的就是提问呐，就是像我自己本人也有这方面的疑惑，就是 Health Science 和 Life Science 的 Gateway 的区别。首先呢 ，Health Science 更多的是对于你将来想从事医疗领域方面的一个就是铺垫吧。因为这个专业呢，是首先它是一个特别竞争激烈的专业，在加拿大应该是竞争最激烈的一个专业了，因为每年都有很多人想进到这个专业，他们是收90以上的学生的，大部分人在这个专业里边的话都是95分及以上啊。这个专业之所以这么竞争力激烈呢，就是因为它在大学里的 GPA， 就是我们大学的分数会相对来讲比其他的专业要好拿一点，因为在最后的医学院看的时候，就是你本科的这个分数，4年本科的分数，所以这个专业不光会为你这个申请这个 medical school 有更好的一个分数的这个申请方面，更多的还是会把你整个这个4年学到的东西都是有关于这个医疗行业的。但是相比于之下呢 ，Life Science Gateway 呢，它是说 一个叫 gateway 的东西嘛，就是在大二的时候呢，你会去进行一个叫 specialization 的东西，就是你在大二的时候会去选择你想要学的专业，比如说you are more interested in biology， 就生物、化学、物理，就是这些方面的，你就可以在大二的时候去选。然后呢，你这个 specialized program 有些是有叫 co-op 的，有些是没有的。在 science 领域方面的话，尤其是像 apply for medical school or something like that， 就是 co-op 是一个非常重要的东西，它会给你更多的这些机会啊，让你去了解到你是不是真的适合将来你想从事的这份工作。然后在大一的时候呢，你会学到更多的一些有关于 general science， 就是你会学很多很多门课，然后在大二的时候你去找你更喜欢哪一门，然后底下这个链接就是说对于这个专业啊，或你就是一些大二选课的事情的更多的一些了解。Next slide, please. Just like the ones was, yeah, thank you. So the other things I have over here is Western medical and health science. This is also something that I was really worried about. Like I have no clue what are those two things. So Western medical science works really different. It's something like the IB. The admission average is usually mid to high 90s. And it's also a preparation for your medical field, especially for dentistry or medicine. And so just be aware of the admission to medical science does not mean the admission to the Bachelor of Medicine, medical science. These two things works really different. This Bachelor of Medical Science is something that you're going to apply beyond your second year, about like third year or fourth year. I actually checked that with my friend. So the first 2 years are more generally based science. So it's like same thing for other courses. People in the first 2 years are just like really competitive, just trying to get really high GPAs and apply to the medical science. And in contrast, health science has a admission average like lower than that. It has a high 80s, and it focuses more on like the health and wellness studies about the society. It related to more about the international health issues. It look at those things through a political, social, economic, and environmental factors. It's 3 years for a non-honors, 4 years for an honors program, and it does offer co-op. So, 我再讲一下这个西安大略的这个 medical science 和 health science。这个西安大略的话，它的 medical science 是更多于迹象于像麦克马斯特的 health science 一样，它是更多的对于这个医疗领域方面的一个铺垫。然后呢，它是有叫做 admission to health science 和这个 Bachelor of Medical Science， 这两个是不一样的东西。这个 Bachelor 的话是在你的大三，就是你大二结束到大三的那个学年的时候，你会开始去 apply 的一个东西。这个但是同理的话，跟其他的专业是很像的，在你在大一和大二的时候学的更多的是基于一个 general based science 的，就是你什么课都会去学，直到大三的时候，你再去用你的 GPA 去申请这个bachelor degree。然后这个 Western Health Science 的话，它不是像 McMaster 的 Health Science 一样去学有关于人体啊这些医疗领域的方面，它更多的是看向的是一个在社会上的健康的一些问题啊，还有这些大家就是它是从一个不同的观点去看待的，像什么政治方面啊、社会学方面啊、经济学方面啊，就是它会带你从不同的方面去看待这些社会，就是这些健康问题。然后呢，这个专业 Western Health Science 是有 co-op 的，对。Next slide, please. Okay. So the other 3 programs I'm going to talk about is Queen's Health Science. This is also a really competitive program. The admission average is usually high 80s to low 90s. And okay, I saw there's questions over here. I'm going to save it to later for answering those questions. So the admission average is usually high 80s to low 90s. It's having the degree of Bachelor of Health Science. It works similar as McMaster Health Science. So it's a program built for medical field. I actually have a friend studying over there. He's taking immunology, virology. It's really interesting. It's a 4-year direct entry program, which means, I think Eric talked about it. It's something that just prepare you just 4 years through this, and then you apply to medical school, dentistry school, things like that. And also McGill Life Science. So because this school is in Quebec, so the Ontario admission average is about 90%. Yes, and this school does not really look at your extracurricular. It's a school, just look at your marks. Like if you are having 95%, you're definitely in. It's also something works as all of the life sciences. you specialize your programs in second year, like third years, you choose what you like. And U of T Life Science. So this life science does include psychology, and the admission average is mid-80s. Because U of T does take a lot of students in the first year, and their first year is extremely hard. So it's really, they take a lot of students in the first year. So if you have a mid-80s GPA, you should be able to get in there. And it gives you the degree as well as, I have a bachelor, it gives you the degree of Bachelor of Life Science. It's a first year programs based on like general sciences, as well as other life science programs. The program selection by the end of the first year, you can have specialists on some programs. You can have double majors, 1 majors, 2 minors, and there's co-op, really depends on the program. So you really want to think about it. Do you want to co-op or not? And life science just gives you more opportunities on what do I want to do in the future. For people that are not too sure about their future careers from now, you can start to look at life science as one of your choice. And people who think, oh, I'm just so passionate about like health science, I just want to get into medical school, I just want to be a doctor, want to be a pharmacist. Yeah, do look at those health science programs because that's going to have you a really good preparation for that.然后我讲一下这个 Queen's U of T 和 McGill 啊，这个皇后大学的话呢，它是 Health Science 也是一个竞争很激烈的一个大学。它这个 admission average 正常来讲是80，就是大概就是87到93左右，我们叫 high 80s 和 low 90s。然后呢，这个大学的这个专业也是跟 McMaster Health Science 是一样的。这个专业也是说为了你将来要从事医疗领域方面做一个很好的铺垫。这个他们就是在这些大一里边嘛，就是我有个朋友现在在读大一，他们就会学很有趣的一些像免疫学呀、叫病毒学啊，就是这些很有趣的东西。它是一个叫 Directly Entry Program，Eric 刚刚也有讲过，就是说它是一个直接把你送到这里边，然后4年读完你是这个degree。然后 McGill Life Science 的话，因为它在魁北克吧，所以说它的在于安省的这个录取分数线是在90分左右的。但是像 Eric 刚刚也讲了，McGill 这个大学它是基本上不看你其他的课外活动的，他可能进了大学以后，他会去让你去参加这些活动，但是在录取的时候，它是一个非常注重分数的大学。所以如果你有大概95分，然后你去 apply McGill Life Science 的话，那你是90%的可能性会去进到这个大学里边。所有的 life science 基本上都是一样的，在大一和大二的时候学到的更多的是基于一个 general science， 就是你什么都会学。到了再往后，比如说大2、大3、大4啊，你再去学你去专精的一门课。然后呢，多大的这个 life science 叫 including psychology 的话，它因为多大的大一的录取的话，它是会录取很多人。就如果你有一个大概在85分左右的分数的话，你是应该可以被 accept 的。它这个但是多大的大一呢？是大家就是我身边的朋友也有说过是众所周知的难的，所以说呢，它的大一呢也是会基于一个更 general 的一个 science， 你什么也都会学。然后呢 co-op 的话也是基于你学的专业的不同，从而去选择的。Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there's other medical related programs that you should really consider into. It's not only health science or life science or medical science. There's also something called kinesiology for those of you who doesn't know that. It's a really interesting course. I took that in my grade 12. It's a study of human and non-human movements. This includes physiology, biochemistry, etc. The schools offer really good opportunity for this are U of T, McMaster, Queen's, Waterloo, Westerns. This is also a program that can prep you for medical school, like things like that, medical related fields. So you can actually go through, like in this course, you can actually learn about human, like muscles, bones. It's really interesting. And you can also, like people who take that do want to be like a physiotherapist, something like that. And also nursing. This is also, I believe nursing, you graduate with a nursing like degrees, and then you just go to having the working hospital. And the schools offer really good nursing programs are McGill, McMaster, Queen's. And yeah, to be said, nursing is really competitive. The admission average is minimum 90, and there's like a lot of interview essay questions about nursing application. So just be aware of that. Your choice is not only limited to life science or health science. If you get rejected, that's not at the end of the world. You have so many other choices. We don't look at the reputation. For science program, we just look at how much you learn. how good you are, look at how good you are at this field. So we more about like a subject like knowledge based. 然后大概讲一下啊，这个除了 health science、life science 的话，我们其实在这些医疗方面，我们还有很多其他的选择。就比如说这个叫人体运动学，或者是叫运动医学的专业叫 kinesiology。大部分国内的，就是国内来的家长可能不是很了解，这是一门在这边比较，也是相当于没有那么大众、比较小众的专业。但是这门课它非常的有趣，它讲的是更多的是人体的一些运动方式。这门课里边你会学到很多有关于人体机能，叫肌肉啊、骨头啊，然后你人体里的生物化是怎么工作的。这门课也是一个对于将来大学，就是如果想从事医疗方面的话，也是一个非常好的一个专业可以去选择的。然后像比较好的大学会有这个 kinesiology program 的话，就像 U of T、McMaster、Queen's、Western or Waterloo 这些大学都是会就是有一个比较好的这些 program。然后像 nursing 叫
我插一句啊，这 kinesiology 其实现在 AI 里面就人工智能里面有很多 kinesiology 的这个专业的这个 involve 啊，比如说这个 Boston Dynamics 那个很著名的那个机器狗，那个里面有很多都是这个 kinesiology 的这个专业在里面。
OK，然后还有一个专业就叫护理嘛，这个就是将来一般想到就是说从事护士这个行业的话，护理是一个也是非常好的 program，就是但是护理这个专业其实竞争非常的激烈，尤其是 McMaster 和 Queen's 这两个专业就是很多人去 apply， 但是很多人都被拒绝了。McMaster 的 Queen's 是跟他的 Health Science 的录取是有一拼的，这个 acceptance rate。然后呢，它的 admission average 也是一个 minimum of 90%，但是护理更多看向的是你这个人的 personality，你适不适合这个行业？因为 nursing 和其他的专业不一样，你 nursing 出来了以后，你就是去从事护理，你就是去医院去直接实习，然后成为一名护士，这是一个比较不同的区别。Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, do consider your future career. So as I said, your major programs does not mean where you're going to end up being your future career. We are really flexible in the scientific field because you can even apply to medical school if you end up with a music major. You just have to do your MCAT. You just have to have your GPA about like 3.89-ish. Yeah, you have a lot of choices for those beyond the first year of these courses. So do you think about medical dental school? It's really competitive. Yes, you make a lot of money after that. Do you look into pharmacy school? Do you think about physiotherapist? For people who are really interested in a certain subject, you can think about being a science or lab researcher, think about being a scientist. We are really flexible. You can just like do the things you like, as what Eric just said. Focus on what you want to be, not being pushed by others, being like, oh, I want to be a doctor, then you have to be a doctor. If you're really into chemistry, then be a chemist. Do more research on chemistry. Maybe the next Nobel Prize winner will be you. You see, so yeah, just with your passion, study with your passion, because in university, you have to push yourself. You have to motivate yourself. There's no ways being said, oh, I'm studying this thing that I really don't like, but I have to finish it. I have to go to medical school. I have to make a lot of money because that's what other people want me to do. That's what my parents want me to do. 就是说也是跟 Eric 刚刚说的一样吧，就是对于将来的一些职业上的选择的话，学 science 的话，你的选择路线其实是非常的多的。比如说，你可以去申请医学院、牙医学院，这两个是不一样的东西。在医学院和牙医学院还有药学院的申请话，你不需要你的本科是任何一个有关于这方面的这个文凭，你可以是音乐学院的，你也可以去申请这个，只要你考了 MCAT 或 DCAT 或者是 PCAT， 你都可以去考，你只需要 High GPA， 考完这个考试你就可以去申请。所以如果你没有考上 McMaster Health Science， 这也不是你世界末日，你有很多的机会，很多的出路去申请这项东西。然后呢，其他的方面你也可以去从事一些实验室的研究啊，科学上的研究啊，你可以去当一名科学家，就是比如说你特别喜欢化学，你就可以将来当一名化学家，你不一定非说是要去当一名医生啊，或者是什么其他的行业。然后呢，像 physiotherapist 的话 ，people like 如果你就想学那种运动医学方面的话，这也是一种很好的就是医疗方面的一个领域，它更多是帮助人们，有点像那种就是帮助人们去康复训练的一种方式，就是这也是一些很好的一些就是一些 将来的职业方面的选择。Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so some personal advice from me. So yeah, we do have a lot of essays when we apply to science program as well, but it works pretty different than business. So volunteer experience are really important. So I highly recommend people who are in grade 9 elementary school and grade 10 to try to apply experiences you can have hospital, nursing home, or pet hospital. This does not include COVID time, just being said. Yeah, go there, volunteer safely. And also universities, summer programs is really good. You can have a look of what university life actually feels like. I've actually been the U of T summer programs last year. I've been there for microbiology with a really interesting labs. I actually attended lectures every single day with my friend. It's really, really, really cool. So even though I didn't attend to university in campus this year, the experiences I had in last summer was wonderful. It gives me how I like the university. Do I actually want to be a part of that major? I just have like wonderful opportunities for you guys. And also start to organize achievements from grade 9. So it's being said because, for example, Queens was asking me to fill out my extracurricular in a large form. Like, when did I start it? When did I end it? What achievements that I got? If I've never organized my achievements before that, it's going to be really time consuming. So yeah, start to organize your achievements, start to organize your extracurricular with date. Just being said, do also attend to open houses and visit their campus, because the atmosphere in a campus is really important. Like what Eric said, what people you're going to meet in that campus is going to be something that's going to push you or not push you in that your future studying in the university. And yeah, as an ESL student, the major thing I want to say is read as much as you can. Read every possible English book around you, read textbook, just read as much things you can in high school. Even though for people who are not in ESL, read those scientific magazines, because that's going to help you to build really strong scientific base for your future studying in universities or applications that you're going to have. 一些个人建议啊，这个一些义工的经历，尤其是在医院、养老院和宠物医院的话，是一些非常重要的。然后小学9年级和10年级的朋友们可以开始去看一下这些经验。11年级的、12年级的也可以啊，就是说这是非常好的一个机会，让孩子们去有对于这方面的一些了解。这个我刚刚前几页 slides 也提到过了。然后还有比较重要的就是说，像科学方面的话， lab 呀、实验室是一些比较重要的事情的，所以去大学的 summer programs 的话是非常重要的。这些 summer programs 的话会让你更多去了解在大学里的生活，你在学校里上课是什么样子的。然后还有一点就是说，你应该在这个时刻，你应该去开始整理好你在从9年级到现在为止的一些获得的奖项，你的经历都是什么。因为在大学里的申请，比如说皇后大学，他就会去问你说你的经历是什么，你获得了什么奖项。然后呢，在大学的这些 open houses， 就是它的展览呀，你可以尽可能的去了解到那个大学。因为 Eric 刚刚也讲到了，你在大学里的环境其实是推动你学习学习氛围的一个很重要的一个因素。还有一点就是说，作为一个英语不是母语的人的话，比较有用的一点就是说，我会去读大量的东西。因为这一点是能够帮助我尽可能的去学更多的英文词汇、造句，包括你在科学方面的这些了解的话，你也会比同龄人要了解的多。这对你的大学大一的一些课程是非常有帮助的。Okay, next please. Okay, basic preparation. So Eric actually covers a lot of things that I was about to say, but I'm just gonna briefly talk about it. So study method and time management is something that you should really consider of, because I know a lot of you guys, you just finished your first exams. You study like a day before them, and you just remember them for like 2 hours, and you write your exams, you forget it. Whatever, it's right. You feel like you're never gonna learn it anymore. But the thing is, start to know how to work till a long-term memory. That's something you're really going to look at in grade 11 and 12. The things you learned and that time is something that you will relearn again in university. So do not rely on your short-term memory, rely on your long-term memory. That's going to be something that's going to help you all the way through your life. And start to have an idea of time management. I don't know how Eric got through this 15 to 20 hours practice for figure skating, but I believe he has really, really good time management. So that's going to be really important things for you guys to be aware of. Start to be heads up what are those things. And high school AP and IB. So for people in grade 9 and 10, do consider the high school you are going into, because the high averages in grade 11 and 12 are really important. So I know there's schools that just have your average really, really low for grade 12s. University doesn't care about that. They just look at your average. They just see, oh, this person has 95. We're going to accept it. So do think about that as one of your options. And do consider AP and IB courses. This does not mean you have to take those, but this being said, those things are really good opportunities. Those things are really good for university preparation. It pushes you beyond your academic level. Yeah, and then thankfully Kiefer saved my chemistry and calculus. It just saved me through my first year of university right now. Otherwise, I feel like, I'm just so thankful for the teachers over here. And do consider summer schools for elective courses. I took civics and careers as in my grade 9 summer. So I had one spare in grade 12 for my university application. That helps me a lot. And yeah, being said, as what Eric said, extracurricular. Go involve into school activities and extracurricular. You are not going to be regret for that. Just keep doing things that you're interested in. You just develop what you like. You're gonna, and then after beyond the first 2 years, you're gonna focus on things that you like the most. Yeah.首先就是对于90年级的一些学生的建议啊，这是 Eric 刚刚也讲到了很多是我想提到的东西。所以说，就是一个叫做时间管理和你的学习方法是非常重要的。我是个人在90年级没有这个意识啊，但是我现在是在尝试去慢慢的去有这个感觉。对于学生来讲的话，很多学生是在考试前一天那个晚上在熬夜，然后去学习你第二天要考的所有的内容。这个其实是非常不可取的，因为这个东西它只是会帮助你作为一个叫做短期记忆，它不是你长期记忆的一个方式。在大学里边的话，你很多的学到的知识其实是你的11年级到12年级的一个方式，就是你11年级到12年级学的一些课程。所以学会去如何进行长期记忆是非常重要的。然后还有一点就是说时间管理问题，时间管理问题是一个非常重要的事情，就是对于9到10年级的孩子来讲，他是有必要去了解到这时间管理是个什么样子的东西的。然后呢，高中来讲的话 ，AP 和 IB 我也是被问到很多的一个问题。首先高中的话呢，AP 和 IB 不是说你必须要去申请的，除非你要申请美国的大学。但是呢 ，AP 和 IB 是帮助你去学到从你这个知识层面要学到更多的东西，它会帮助你在大学里边去了解到更多的知识层面的，并不是说它不是一个东西你学完以后现在立刻能够看到效果的东西，它更多的是一个帮助你在未来将来去。你会发现哦，还好我就是说我学到了比别人更多的东西，它是一个这样子的一个东西的。然后像夏校这个方面的话，尝试去把一些叫选修课在夏校修掉，像 Civics and Career 就是我修的一些课程。然后呢，也像 Eric 刚刚也说的，就是像课外活动的话，课外活动的话是比较重要的。Okay, next please. Okay, preparation in grade 11. So this is the time you should really think about your courses selections, because now the courses you choose right now is something that will affect your grade 12. So for example, you want to take biology 4U as a prerequisite for university, but you need biology 3U, right? So right now you should really have an idea of what programs you want to get in and start to look at their requirements, the programs you want to get in there. And yeah, you should really think about the grades. So if you want to achieve to a 95% at this point, you should have at least 90% as your average in grade 11. And right now, you should also have you should really find the fields that you're really interested, like having your strong interest in. So the things I highly recommend people in grade 11 to look into is something called HOSA. this is something people are really interested in medical fields should look into. It's similar as DECA. There's teamwork, there is individuals work. You study the materials you like. You can study, for example, pathophysiology. You start to look at, am I really interested into medical fields? Like, it's just really good preparation for you. It's also a really good opportunities. There's international competitions, things like that. But I don't think many schools offer that opportunity. It's something that's still slowly built up at this point. So yeah, and right now it's something to be prepared for your grade 12. So you should really look into those application processes, and it will make your life much easier if you pre-study the grade 12 courses in grade 11. Like, I did my grade 12 math and I started to look at AP biology, AP chemistries at that point. So that's going to be something to save your time and make your life easier. 然后呢，在于11年级的一些建议的话，就是说你在11年级的选课其实是会影响到你在12年级的选课的。像比如打个比方来讲的话，生物4优是需要生物3优的一个课程。如果你想申请的大学是需要4优的课程的话，你没有这个3优的课程，你是申请不了4优，你就申不了这样大学的这个专业。所以在这个期间的话，我们是确实应该去注重一下将来的选择的方向是什么样子的了。然后比较重要的一个事情叫做 HOSA， 这个东西现在是没有那么多人知道，但是现在也是一个非常重要的一个在医疗方面的一个也像一个 competition 一样，像 DECA 一样，就是学生如果对于这个领域有很强的兴趣的话，应该是去了解一下 HOSA 这个东西的。然后对于12年级的建议来讲，就是现在的建议来讲的话，就是能学尽量多的12年级的课程，就在现在去学习掉，这样子你12年级的话会轻松很多。Okay, next please. Thank you. Okay, so now we are getting into applications in grade 12 for those of you who are actually applying this year. So grades and course selection. So right now you should have your required grades for programs you are looking into at this point. You should have your average 95, 98, 99, something like that. And for course selections, you must meet the university top 6 courses requirements. So for general science programs, these are the programs I listed you should taking because those things are something you are really going to use in beyond grade 12. And yeah, you should also take courses that can be a mark booster for a higher averages. Okay, so now to the system of OUAC. This system is something you could get the code around October to November. It depends on the schools. Some people get it earlier, some people get it later. But also be careful when you are choosing the programs. So for example, co-op versus non-co-op, MELD versus non-MELD, the degree of the programs, those things you should be really, really careful when you're choosing the programs. And also rank your choices before the payments correctly. The correctly being said is some schools do look into this. For example, U of T does look into this, but that's something you should be really considerate of. 首先呢，我是想讲一下对于12年级的同学的一些建议，就是现在来讲的话，你的分数应该是已经达到了学校的要求的。比如说这个专业大部分录取分数线是95分，你现在就应该是有一个95分的分数线的。然后呢，对于普通科学方面的来讲，他们的 top 6课程的话，我已经在这里写出来了。12年级的学生是建议会去学这些课程，这样子你将来你申请大学的时候会轻松一点。然后 OUAC 这个网站的话呢，就是一个大家在12年级的时候会去申请大学的一个网站。你会拿到一个 code， 在大概10月份到11月份的时候，就是因为学校的不同，可能会拿到 code 的时间也不同。在你选这个 program 的时候呢，你需要非常注意，因为它有的 program 是像写了，有的 program 是有 co-op， 有的 program 是没有 co-op 的，这些东西都需要非常的注意。就像 MELD 的话，就是一个对于 ESL 学生来讲的一个 program， 在申请大学的时候要格外注意这些小细节，因为一个出错的话，你可能报的就不是你要选的那个专业了。然后在这些对于专业的排行，在 OUAC 上也是非常重要的，就是它会就跟你在国内报大学的时候会有第1志愿、第2志愿、第3志愿一样，它会让你去就是让你去写出你对这些专业的这些想法。然后因为有的大学确实是看这个东西的。Okay, next please. Okay, So more about university applications. So your top 6 courses is submitted by your high school automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. And for the supplementary application, it's one of the things you should really look into. I believe Eric is going to talk about the essay writings, and some programs may require supplementary application. Some programs may not, so just don't be scared if you don't have any essays to write. So for essays, you may have to write an essay about a picture, personal thoughts about situations, how do you deal with problems. So the pictures I can see over here is a blue bird with a golden feather on its tail. It's actually a question from last year McMaster Health Science. It's asking your thoughts on this artwork. So people right now in grade 12, grade 11, what's your thought about this picture? See, so what's your perspective about this? You should really think about things like that right now. And beyond that, interviews. Some programs may require interviews. I believe business engineering requires that more than science-based programs. So it's normally worked like you answer a question within a 5 minutes preparation. It gives you a question like, what do you think about this? And you have 5 minutes to prepare this. You answer it with like a 2 minutes or 3 minutes interval, and it's gonna mark you based on your that. And some additional documents may be required. So check your website, check the university websites. So, Westerns ask my PR card copy, and some schools may ask for the IELTS score submission. So don't miss anything. Check your to-do list on the system. It's going to show us about that. 对于大学申请，还有更多的一点要讲的话，就是首先你的最高的6门课的成绩是会被学校自动给上传到大学的，这一点不用担心。然后呢，像这叫 supplementary application，就是一些你会在提交分数之后要交的一些东西，有些专业是要的，有些专业是不要的。像文书这样东西的话，它更多的文书会要求你会更多的要求你去写一些，比如说你的个人的观点，在于一些，尤其是像给你看图说话一样的。然后你个人在面对一些问题的时候，你是如何去解决这项问题的？这个图片在这里就是麦马去年的一个问题，就是说你对于这幅画的想法。然后像一些面试方面的话呢，尤其是像工程和商科的朋友们会面临更多这样子的问题，就是说他会给你一个问题，你有5分钟的时间去想，然后2到3分钟的时间去解答。这一点是一个非常非常有难度的事情，因为你需要在短时间内把你的思维去整理好。然后一些其他的文档是可能会需要提交的，比如说雅思啊，一些证件的提交。Next, please. Okay, I think it's my part also. So for essay writing, for science, it works a bit different than business. So my advice for application essays. So you have to show them your knowledge base. If you're not grade 12 yet, this is something you can start to look at that. So that's why I said read more magazines about science, read more articles. So this is an example from last year's McMaster Health Science as well. Which biological molecules do you think is most interesting and what do you want to research on? So if you don't have that really big scientific knowledge base, how are you going to be able to answer this? How are you going to be able to answer this based on a unique perspective? If everyone studied grade 12 biology, they're going to answer the same molecule. There's nothing unique about you. They don't know how you are passionate about this subject, right? And also show your passion about their programs. So it's something that you should write about your future career. Show them that why they should take you as their student. Why are you interested in their programs? So the pictures I have right above here is a essay writing for U of T kinesiology application. So why are you interested in this program? How are you going to be able to achieve this program? So these are things you should really look into. And how are you going to consider your extracurricular into these essay writings? So you're when facing different situations. So just try to write some personal experiences from your extracurricular. This may include your job experiences, volunteer experiences, things like that. And have your opinion on through a multiple perspective. Political, economical, environmental, biological. Show them you are not like people only know about science. You know more than they think. And for people who are in ESL, you can also show them how I was struggling in my grade 9, my first year in Canada. How am I able to make it at this point? How am I able to success at this point? So those things are really something to make you stand out from other people because everyone is awesome at this point. Everyone did a lot of extracurricular. You should really catch their eyeballs. see, you should really write something that feeling like, oh, she's or he is unique. We need that. 这对于大学的文书在于科学方面的文书是跟商科有点不同的，更多的是基于一个你对于科学层面的一些知识面的了解。这是一个在麦马去年的一个文书申请的例题，它就是问你说哪一个生物的 molecule 你是觉得非常有趣的。这些如果你没有说大量的阅读啊，或者是对于这个领域的特别的热爱的话，你是写不出来一些非常有趣的答案的。然后其他的话就是你需要对这个专业你申请的有极大的热情，你需要去给大学展示出我想进到你这个专业，而且要让他们感觉到我们需要让他们觉得他们需要你成为他们的一员，这是一些能够让他们就觉得哦，我需要把他录取的，他需要成为我们其中的一个人。然后在写文书的时候呢，你要去尝试去增加去说用你生活中的一些例子，比如说你在打工的例子啊，你在义工的例子呀，去让你的这些文书更多的多元化。然后呢，在一些答题的过程中呢，你需要写出你的观点是从不同的层面去讲的。政治层面你去看待这个问题，经济层面去看待这个问题，其他的层面去看待这个问题。你需要展示出你是一个什么，就是你是一个知识面非常广的人。你不单单的基于你只会学校的这些功课，你也不单单的只会基于这些你的这些课外活动。Okay, next please. Okay, so yeah, being said, this is a really important part of my life. I am a second language speaker over here. So how did I improve my English ability? So I read and listen a lot of things. I scroll on YouTube every single day, and reading the books includes like textbook, books you like, sci-fi books, something that can have your attention on. Write down the words that you don't know, right? So write them out on like a cue cards or like just flip it through whenever you have time, free time, breakfast time, and also read magazines. So the Economics is one of the best magazines I've been recommended to other people. It's having really good word choices, sentences, and you can really should read those things and helps you to build your English ability. So I watch TED Talks, YouTube, movies, and with subtitles on. So those things are something I slowly, gradually build my English ability. And the most important things for English is vocabulary, right? So do make cue cards, as I just said. Write down the words you don't know. You can just, when you have free time, just review them. And another book I highly recommend to you guys is Wordly Wise. They didn't give me any ads fee, but this is one of the really, really good book I've been used. It helps you to have practice how you actually use the words in real life. Also, step out from your comfort zone. I believe many people was like me, you're so afraid of speaking a language that you are not familiar with, right? So do not be afraid. Like talk more. It's okay to make mistakes. Nobody's gonna laugh at you, right? Make friends with people as English is their first language and just ask them to correct your grammatical errors, right? So I asked my piano teacher to correct me whenever I pronounce a word is wrong, whenever I say a grammar that is not correct. So that's are some things you're gonna build slowly, right? So learning a language is not a hard thing, and it's also not easy. It's something that you learn like small piece, and you combine them together. So also at the same time, do you find an English tutor? So it's gonna be something that's gonna help you with essay writing skills, presentation skills, things like that. And also another thing, debate is really helpful. I actually did debate when I was in grade 9-ish. I believe Linky doesn't have that at this point. Otherwise, I'll be in Linky. It's gonna be something to build your thoughts through a English perspective, not thinking in like your first language and changing it to English, because that's gonna take a lot of efforts, right? So 对于 ESL 学生，就是英语不是母语的学生的话，我有一些事情要给大家，就是说我个人的经历和建议啊。首先，读和听是非常重要的。像这些阅读大量的这些课本啊，你的一些课外书啊，都是非常有用的。然后有一个杂志叫做《经济学人》杂志，叫 Economics， 也是非常有用的。这个杂志里边有非常好的这些 word choice 和它的 sentence structure 是非常重要的，在将来12年级或者是文书的申请当中，就是非常非常的有用。然后像听力的话，我会去看很多的 TED Talk、YouTube 和这电影，这些东西也是，就是把你的字幕打开，然后你去听去看，慢慢来讲，慢慢的，你就会慢慢的去理解到这些东西了。 然后在学英语最重要的一点就是说你的词汇量。这个东西有个东西叫做 cue cards，就是稍像小手卡一样可以翻来翻去的。这个小手卡的话呢，这样这个小手卡的话呢，就是说在你课余时间里边，你可以去翻一翻，你可以去讲，你可以去回忆一下这些词。然后呢，还有一点就是说，不要在你的舒适区一直待着。像我本人一样，最开始的时候也是非常不愿意去讲英语的，因为这是一门你不熟悉的语言，所以说去和这些朋友，去和你的本地的朋友去做一些交流的话，他们会让他们去纠正你的语法，是一个其实是非常好的方式去让你的英语变得更好。然后呢，找一个英语的像 tutor 老师一样的东西，然后教你如何去正确的写这边的 essay，如何正确去用一些 presentation skills。这些东西都是在你的英语学习道路上非常重要的。还有一点就是说 debate 这个东西是一个非常非常有意义而且有意思的事情，在英语学习的方面，linked key， 然后它这方面会让你慢慢的就是让你去有一些如何用英语的思维能力去学这些东西。Okay, next please. Okay, and this is advice especially for people who are considered medical and science as their pathways. So read scientific and articles and magazines, as I just said. You guys see the questions for the supplementary applications, right? So if you don't read, how are you going to be able to understand or like write essays about those questions? To being said that, because university multiple choices and tests are incredibly long and incredibly complicated, there's a lot of case studies you have to read. Expand your knowledge base. So you do want to understand as much scientific term as you can being an ESL student, and also find the ways that helps you to understand the word the best. Memorization is important, but at the same time, you should be able to understand this word. You're not only like know what this term means, you have to know like way beyond this knowledge. And think as a native speaker, because yeah, just being said, university professors gonna trick you as they think you are a native speaker. So just be aware of that and be patient and be passionate. Learning a new language involves a lot of patience. It's not gonna be something you're gonna like be learning like, okay, after 1 week, I'm a genius at English, right? So you should be really patient and be passionate about learning a new language. Just being said, knowing 2 languages is just such a pleasure, like such a great things to think about that way. 对于一些想 apply 到医疗方面的一些同学们的话，读很多的这些科学方的杂志是非常重要的。因为就是在大学里边的话，你很多的这些考试啊东西啊是非常非常长的一些问题。你如果没有这些基础的话，你在考试的时候甚至是读不完题的。所以把你的这些大量的阅读是对于你将来的一些叫做 preparation 吧。然后呢，在你学习这些科学的词汇中的时候，你不是更多的是背下来这个单词，你需要更多的是去理解这个单词在讲什么意思。因为你去单背的话，你是无法去真正的去理解这个词的意思。你毕竟不是一个 native speaker， 然后学习这个东西的话，是一个非常的需要耐心和热情的一样东西。Okay, next please. Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia. 谢谢大家还和我们待着，我们还有154个人在这里边，特别好。Thank you all for staying with us. And I'm so sorry about the Chinese. I really am. So, 现在我要告诉你们怎么挣钱。I'm going to tell you guys how to make bank. We're going to talk a little bit about scholarships. And I'm aware that we're going a little bit over, so I'm going to try and wrap up. On my phone, it is 8:50 right now, so I think I'm going to try and wrap up by, say, 9:15 or so. I want to be able to tell you guys a good amount about how to apply for the scholarships and stuff. 因为我觉得是挺重要的。I do think it is quite important. 能自己想用你自己的能力付一点你的学费嘛, like using your own abilities to try and pay off some of your tuition and such, right? It can really change your life sometimes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey to the Western National Scholarship, the President's National Scholarship valued at $50,000, and as well the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board's Past President Award. I placed second in the essay writing competition associated with that, and I won $2,500. So firstly, what is the National Scholarship? I'm going to go a little bit into what kind of applicant they're looking for later, but I would really honestly encourage anybody who feels like they come close to the kind of rough outline I'm going to give you in a few minutes to apply for it, because it is really a great program. It's one of the most generous scholarship programs, I think, from any school in the country. So they've increased the amounts further this year. So there's one at 70,000, 4 at 65,000, 15 at 50,000, which is the one that I was in this category. There's one at 72,000, but you have to have a demonstrated kind of financial need. So you have to, I think your family can't make too much money. It has to be below a certain line. There's 3 reserved for international students. So if we have any students who are not Canadian citizens here today, you could apply for this. Then there's 15 scholarships valued at 30,000, and then study abroad awards are offered as well. It's $2,500 per term, so I can get $2,500 for every 4 months I go away from Western, which is kind of funny because it's like they're paying me to leave. I don't know how I feel about that, but anyways, that was a joke. Okay, so my journey for the Western President's National Scholarship， 这又回到我的故事了。我告诉你们一下，然后我赢这个奖学金需要干什么。What I had to do. So firstly, you have to become the school nominee. The way this works is that I applied to be the school nominee at White Oaks in late January. Each school they have their own process for deciding on the school nominee. Generally, it's the counselors that kind of put it out there. It's an open call. I don't know if there are schools that might also choose somebody. At White Oaks, we had to write the academic paper section of the National Scholarship. And I'm going to go a little bit into the sections of the scholarship in a few minutes, but we had to write the academic paper section of it. It's about, I think, 1250 words. It is an academic paper, so it's formal. And I wrote mine on income inequality. Each school in the country, regardless of size and geographic location, can nominate up to 2 students. That was what it was in my year. This year, it's actually been changed to be 4 students per school. So it increases your chances of being the nominee, but it is also going to make the nomination, the kind of selection process a lot more competitive if you've got more people. Then you submit it to Western. So I was selected as the White Oaks nominee, and I had 4 days to finish everything else in the application. I remember that time in my life vividly because it sucked. It was a lot of writing. The National Scholarship application is very, very thorough. So there are 5 essays in it. So the first one is a long-term goals and aspirations essay. I talked about how I would use my business education, kind of leverage the power of money, right? Because I think money kind of does make the world go around in some ways, right? To do some good in the world. I wanted to use that for some social good. I also wanted to kind of build upon the foundation that my parents have built for me, right? They were first-generation immigrants. I was raised here in Canada and such. They came from all the way back in China to try and give me a better future, right? So I want, like, if I can take our family a little bit farther up and go a little bit further with what they've given me, that's something I want to do, right? And finally, I wanted a job that always has me thinking, right? I want to be using my brain at work, right? So that's why I'm really looking into management consulting right now, because I think it'd be great to challenge myself. Second essay on what appeals to you about Western. So I talked about how my idea of Western changed over my high school years from like a really pretty campus that I visited in grade 9 to a place of like education and high achieving like-minded students, right? So it was this essay about how I kind of matured. And then I talked about how I wanted to get involved. So where I saw myself on campus. And I talked about a lot of the things I do today with my social science students council, so student government. I talked about my varsity sport. I was going to try out for the varsity figure skating team, and I got on it. And then my business club. So I've got like I think 3 business exec positions, and I'm getting involved on campus as I said I would. What extracurricular means the most to you? That's the third essay. So I wrote about how my figure skating was the one that meant the most to me and how it gave me a lot of personal traits that I could apply to other areas of my life. So I'm pretty hardworking. I'm pretty determined. I can focus on things, right? I'm not afraid of a challenge. And I credit figure skating with kind of helping me build those skills from an early age, right? So I talked about that. I talked about how I would apply it to my studies here at Western, and then also how it gave me a lot of lifelong friendships to kind of fall back on. The fourth essay is on my biggest accomplishment demonstrating leadership. So I talked about how I rallied my team up for a tournament at Harvard, a debate tournament there called Harvard World Schools. We planned a trip on our own down to the United States. It was actually the first time that I'd left the country for like more than 5 hours. And for that, we booked our own flights, we booked our own hotels, we found our own way around the city. And, you know, big credits to my parents for actually letting me go on this trip, but I came back alive and we did reasonably well at the tournament as well. And then finally, anything else. They ask you an essay for you, just add anything else you would like. So I talked about how I would really love to have the opportunity, the kind of financial freedom that would come with it, and that I promised that I would use my time at Western really well to advance my goals and to contribute to the campus community. On top of that, you have to have a teacher recommendation. There is the academic paper, 1250 words. I wrote mine on income inequality. You have to give them a list of your extracurriculars, which Cynthia talked about, trying to keep an organized list, right? That is a good idea. And then also just briefly list any major awards and accomplishments. So any awards that I took from debate, figure skating, DECA, all of that just went on a sheet of paper. Okay. Steps that come after that. By the way, here's a picture of Western. If you look in that circle there at the top right, that is actually the building that I am in right now. It's a lovely building. The rooms are quite spacious. They're very new and well furnished. One benefit of winning this scholarship is that you can pick which residence you want to live on. So originally I was going to live on one of the residences that had a more of a reputation for partying. But my parents were like, no, go into this one here. And honestly, I would recommend Ontario Hall to anybody that does go to Western. I find that the people in here are really, really smart. That's what I will say. Everybody seems to have done some crazy good thing in high school. Plenty of interesting people here. Anyways, the third stage is after you get selected to the school, Western reads it. So the first round reading, they read all of the applications. And in my year, there were over 800 applications. In mid-March, they told me that I moved on to the second round reading. And then this is just basically another review of the applications. And I was actually the first person from White Oaks ever, I think, to make the second round reading, if I understood what my counselor said about that correctly. Traditionally, our school, I don't think we've ever gone super far in this. And then the third round reading, I think this year it might be dependent on COVID. In my year, the third round was a close reading. So they did a very thorough reading of our applications again, thorough to the point that they actually went online on Google and searched up videos of me figure skating. I don't know if they were just curious to watch or they wanted to confirm what I was saying, but they actually found old videos of me skating online. In past years, they would fly you out or cover your travel costs to Western for you to go and actually do an in-person interview with them. And kind of sell the school to you along the way as well. I don't know what that's going to look like this year, or I don't know if they're ever going to go back to doing that since we've moved everything online this year. But the good part about making it to the third round is anybody that makes it here can receive $2,500 just for kind of, you know, your application's got to be pretty competitive to make it to this stage. And this $2,500 can stack on top of any entrance award that Western gives you in addition. So it's possible for you to win about $12,000 or so if you can make it to this third round and you get a big entrance award for having a really high mark. Finally, I received the award, kind of a hard day to forget. It was on my birthday, April 21st. I turned 18. And on that day, I also got a call from the Dean of Social Science at Western. Originally, I received the faculty entrance scholarship worth $30,000. Already an incredible, you know, gift from the school, real, honestly life-changing. And then they later on bumped me up a level. I think some people may have chosen to go to other schools. They may have had more competitive offers, and I was offered $50,000. And I think I would be pretty stupid to turn that down. Plus, I was probably going to go to Western anyways. It's a great school. It's a great school. And here I am. So my other scholarship, significantly less complicated than this one, $2,500, a good amount of money as well. It was an essay on how to tackle the issue of housing and affordability in the GTA. It had to be 1,500 words minimum. It was from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. It's called the Past President's Scholarship. And if you have good research and writing skills, I would encourage you to apply for this. It's 1,500 words. The first prize is $5,000. I took second and won $2,500. If you can win this competition, it's a good payout for honestly not that much time. So first, applying realistically. I'm here to motivate you to apply with my story, and I'm here to teach you how to apply, but we need to be realistic in terms of what you should be going for. So if you want to go for something like the Western National Scholarship or the equivalent at Queen's, which is the Chancellor's Award, or U of T's equivalent, whatever, right? Or if you want to go for one of the big kind of all nation, like national kind of programs, like the Laureate Awards. And just as a side note, as far as I know, Western has one of, if not the most generous scholarship programs from a university in Canada. If you want to be going for these big awards, I will warn you first about the acceptance rate. It's probably less than 2%. I think probably maybe even less than 1%. Like we're talking very, very small numbers. They gave out about 35 scholarships to the 800 plus applicants in my year. But keep in mind that these are only the people who were nominated by their schools first, right? So 2 people from each school. We don't know how many people from each school applied, right? If you're nominated, you have about a 4 to 5% chance of actually taking it numerically. With the odds being this low, they can afford to be very picky. You'll have to be involved in several extracurriculars to the point of holding leadership roles. Maybe you've had some sort of competitive success at a national or international level, right? So you've done debate around the country and done pretty well, right? You've gone to DECA internationals, you've done a sport at the national level, you've gone to a really prestigious science fair, right? Or you've made some sort of really impactful change in your community. So you're the leader of a nonprofit. You raised, say, $10,000 for a local food bank. You run a not-for-profit that aims to get more girls into coding, something like that, right? Academic excellence is also a must-have. So they actually tell you not to bother applying. One of the requirements is that your marks are above 90%. The higher, the better. I would say that when I applied at the time, I think I reported my average as 94 or 95%, is probably not, like is going to be people with a lot higher than that. Generally speaking, they're looking for broad all-around success. And I'm not going to go too far into the details, but some of the people in my residence also won this award. You know what I did, right, in high school. You can find a list of the winners on Western's website, and my name will hopefully be up there soon. And you can probably figure out what they did by stalking around on LinkedIn and stuff. So not telling you to go like stalk people, but if you're more interested in the sorts of like accomplishments and profiles of people who've taken these sorts of awards before, there are ways to figure out. Now, if this doesn't sound like you, that's okay too, because honestly, this is a crazy, crazy kind of life to live. There's plenty of other alternatives out there. There's some scholarships that are a little bit more targeted, right? So you only have to be good at a specific thing, right? For example, the Schulich Leader Scholarship is science. The TD Scholarship is community leadership. So if you're really strong in those areas, you could consider applying to a more targeted scholarship. You can look for smaller scholarships that might be more in your community, your organization. So if you work a job, right? I know certain companies have scholarships for students that work there, right? Cynthia mentioned that there are a lot of scholarships at hospitals, right? I think they offer them to their volunteers, or even schools. Schools have scholarships specifically for their students and stuff. If you don't have any ECs, try and apply for scholarships like the Toronto Real Estate Board one that are essays only, right? So they don't care what you did in the past, right? I think they wanted me to show them that I was a decent student, right? So that your average has to be decent, and you have to have I think you have to be academically up to par, right? But outside of that, they're really looking at your writing skill on that essay, right? So try and apply for something like that. And even if you think you've got nothing, try anyways, right? Because every single year, millions of dollars of scholarships go unawarded. There are scholarships that just don't get any applications. So try, right? And there's also scholarships out there that just look at financial need. So if that's the situation that you're in, try and take a look at scholarships that are not based on merit, but based on need, because there are a lot of those out there as well. Okay, so some general advice for how to apply well. Firstly, search early and search hard. So again, millions of dollars of scholarships go unclaimed every single year. Most of these are small ones that can still be $1,000 or $2,000, right? It's a good sum of money. Furthermore, you have to get going early. I don't know how it was before, but nowadays scholarship season basically overlaps with application season, right? The deadline for Queen's, for example, their major admissions award deadline is December 1st. So your school, if you're in grade 12, probably already has a nominee. I think that one might be out of the picture for you, right? Luckily, Western's deadline is February 14th. Your school will probably have your nominee sometime late January, early February. So you still have a shot at that if you're interested in doing that. Once again, search around at your workplace, your churches, your hospitals, stuff like that works too, right? Also, keep getting rejected. You're going to get rejected. It can be tough to convince people to pay you, right? It's kind of tough to convince people to give you money. Don't take that as some sort of judgment against you and your skills, right? Before I was accepted as our school nominee for the Western one, I was actually rejected for our school nominee for the Lauren and the Queen's Awards, right? I didn't even get past our school stage for those, right? But I sat down, I concentrated on the Western one, I put together a really good representation of myself and who I was, and, you know, I guess I went all the way. Okay, also, actually apply, don't write it off. I've heard people say this, and I kind of disagree with this line of thought, but they're like, it's such a smaller amount, right, compared to how much university costs. And I guess if you're thinking of like $100,000 to go to school and you're only winning $1,000, it can seem like a very small amount to go towards that, right? And it is a lot of work. But let's put this into context, right? I put in about 30 hours, maybe 40 hours or so to apply to the Western Scholarship during the busiest time of the year. I'm not going to lie, it sucked. I pulled quite a few all-nighters that time of year. But I'm also going to ask you, like, if you do a little bit of math, right? 50,000 divided by 30, like what other kind of job can you get paid like $1,600 an hour, right? You're going to have to be some sort of CEO to get paid that much money. So I encourage you just to try, right? Also, again, that kind of I won't when idea, right? Firstly, you're not going to know unless you try. And secondly, again, millions of dollars of scholarships that go with 0 applications whatsoever, and they just have nobody to give it out to. So try and apply, see what happens. You might make a little bit of money, right? It's a lot better than trying to make, say, $1,000 working as a cashier. It's a lot harder to make your money that way, that's for sure. And if we are getting close to the end of the presentation here, and I know we're going quite a bit over, so I'm just going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so. I think we might be able to take a few Q&A questions. And I'm also going to give out my email and Cynthia's as well, in case you guys want to ask any questions beyond what we've already covered or more specific to your case. Okay, a little bit of personal advice. I think it can be a little bit tough to give out detailed advice since so much of the work is done before. You know, so much of the work is done in grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, what you do with your extracurriculars, right? But I think on the application, it's good to build a narrative or story, right? Your application should have some sort of overarching narrative to take away. So for me, I was kind of a, you know, like a little bit of a jack of all trades. I latched onto anything that interested me and I dove into it, right? And I kind of dove in and spent a ton of time on my figure skating, on my DECA, on my debate. I talked about how they really changed me as a person, and I had the results to prove it. So find your story and tell it in as compelling of a fashion as you can. Also, once again, it's that sort of idea. What can you offer, right? If you're applying for a school scholarship, try and tell them what you can offer to them, right? What kind of person will you be at the Western campus, right? Will you be an addition to their community that they're willing to pay to try and get you to come, right? Will you be such a kind of leader on their community? And then focus on your unique attributes, right? In these really huge pools, it's so important to try and stand out, right? So for me, it was probably the figure skating that stood out the most. Plus my, on my call with the dean, they basically told me what they liked about my essay and what they sort of caught on to, right? And it was firstly the figure skating and the fact that they actually looked at my videos and stuff too. And then they mentioned that my writing style was very personal. They're like, we felt like we had a really good idea of who you are after we read all of your essays. So they're like, a lot of people are much more formal with it, whereas you used very approachable language and you even like told a few jokes here and there that sort of showed who you were as a person. So try and have something that people will memorize you easily by, right? So I would say maybe their take on me would be like a hardworking, very open skater kid, right? And that's how they would remember you. Okay. Show, don't tell, then summarize. So I said this earlier, for the people in the back, use your stories to have them arrive at a conclusion and then tell them explicitly at the very end if they still don't get it, okay? Focus on the impact or what you learned. For the people in the back again, what did you do, right? Quantify it or tell a story about it that really emotionally pulls, right? If you learned something, show them that. Admissions and awards committees know that we're still teenagers. They know that we're still learning and that we have a lot of learning to do ahead of us. So they like to see that. Be personal, be genuine, right? Write what you genuinely believe, not what you think they want to hear. You're going to have an essay that feels a lot more like you and is a lot easier to write. Personally, I would much rather be rejected.
Oh, no.
Personally, I would much rather be rejected writing an essay that is 100% me, as opposed to trying to write what I think they want to hear and then getting rejected off of that, right? And one really good strategy for this is just to start early on doing stuff that you actually like with your extracurriculars and stuff, right? So that way you can write from the heart. You can write with a genuine sense of passion. Finally, your essays should be cumulative. Right? So notice how my essays from Western, when I went over what I wrote for the 5 essays, added up to a picture of me, right? My most important extracurricular essay went towards my skating, but using my other application essays, I put in details about my time in debate, my time volunteering. I tried to speak about those other things as well, so that over the course of reading my entire application, they were able to get a good picture of me. So don't try to cover everything in one essay, and don't try to make all 5 of your essays about how you're like, I don't know, like really passionate about rugby, right? Okay, last word of advice, work hard, but take care of yourself and have fun, right? I know, obviously this presentation is meant to get you driven up about like university admissions and applying to scholarships and stuff, but remember, like you only go through high school once, right? And certainly nobody wants to see you mentally in a bad state mentally, right? You have to take care of yourself as well. So know your limits, know when to step back and take a break, make time for yourself to hang out with your friends, to do stupid stuff like high schoolers do, right? To go to a party or something, right? There's other important things in life as well. So do make sure to keep a balance while you're doing all of this, right? You're not going to be a star if you like burn out first. Okay, so here I have my email there on the left. I have Cynthia's email there on the right. If you guys would like to take a picture or to write that down somewhere, if you have any compliments, suggestions, questions, please feel free to reach out. I think Cynthia can do Chinese. If you're sending an email to me, unfortunately, it is going to have to be in English. I apologize for that, but my Chinese reading ability is not up to par to be dealing with these sorts of things. So it is going to have to be in English if you're asking me about a question. Please be reasonable and patient with the requests. We are busy university students, so we will try our best to get back to you as quickly as we can. And finally, for those of you guys who are interested, I have a few essays that I would be happy to pass on to people. If you guys would like to send me an email, I can definitely send you my real estate board, the real estate board one. I can send you my formal paper for the Western one, and I will see what business school applications I feel comfortable sending over. Some of them are a little bit more personal, but I can think of a few of them that I think I could send to give you an idea as to my writing. It's, you know, it's not stellar. I think I could do better today, but hey, it got me in, right? At this point, thank you to everybody who came, the 145 of you who are still here with us. Thank you so much for sitting through over 2 hours of presentation. That's incredible. And we'd be happy to take questions, although I think Henry might also, I don't know if Henry's going to give you a Chinese summary of my section or.
Sure. Thank you both, Eric and Cynthia, for the genuine, honest, valuable experience sharing, right? And lots of insights as well, right? 我这样哈，因为我们时间确实有一点这个晚了哈，因为 Cynthia 她那边基本上她已经直接把我失业了哈，因为她自己中文讲得非常好，不需要我了，所以我不需要给她做翻译了哈。但是我想 highlight 几个地方哈，一个就是说他们两个今天其实都谈到了很多关于 essay 尤其 Cynthia 作为一个 ESL student 她建议哈。那我可能用1分钟左右的时间说一下我自己的感受哈。essay 这块其实它是2件事一件事叫 passion， 一件事叫 precision。那 passion 实际上就是你的创作的内容或者说创作的灵感。那 precision 呢，实际上是你的文笔。那这个里面包括当然你的用词啊、语法呀、句型啊、这个修辞啊等等这些哈，这个我们不能细讲了。所以那 Eric 也在强调一个，就 show not to tell， 就是尽量少用一些形容词 多去讲一些故事，因为其实讲故事是很 powerful， 非常非常 powerful。我们可能接下来有2个活动，一个呢是刚才我提到了，就是下个星期五同样的一个时间7点钟开始，我们的Brand， 我们2个资深的这个essay 的顾问哈，当然其中一个是我们的 debate 的一个我们的总教练 Brand， 还有另外一个是Doris， 他现在在康奈尔大学哈。他会给我们做一个真正的 application essay 的 workshop， 就是他真正的我们在现场，边说边练哈，我们有一些实际操作，就是给大家去看哈，这个 essay 什么是好的 essay， 什么是不够理想的。那另外还有一个我自己在过去花了大概可能是1-2个月的时间哈，我整理了大概有50篇的 essay，分别都是哈佛大学和耶鲁大学的成功申请的这个案例哈。当然这些案例他们是愿意把它们 publish 出来的哈，那我把它整理出来了，然后大概50篇左右吧，那我可能会一篇一篇的讲出来，大概可能拍成一些小的这种视频啊或者音频哈，给大家做一些这种案例的成功案例的分析了，当然主要包括他个人的一些背景，当然这个 essay 分析部分是其中很重要的一部分哈。那下个学期呢，其实我们这边呢是有几个新的课程跟大家简单的预告一下，一个是我们要新开一门就是 University Application Essay， 就是这个大学申请文书写作哈，还有一个呢是 Short Story and Current Affairs， 这个就是 Cynthia 讲的就是阅读哈，关于一些时政类的阅读、短篇类的阅读，包括他提到的像经济学人杂志 Atlantics， 包括这个 Foreign Affairs 这几本非常有名的这个政论型的议论型的这种杂志内容的阅读哈。那另外还有2个这个竞赛类课程，一个是 HOSA， 就是刚才 Cynthia 也讲了哈，就是medical 领域医学领域里面的一个高中生的竞赛，那么还有一个是美国的一个创业比赛，也是针对高中生的哈。然后其他的我就不再多说了，我们直接就让大家来问一些问题哈，看看大家有什么问题。因为我觉得那个写在 chat 里面问题，可能好多问问题的人是不是都已经离开了？那如果大家还有问题，我觉得最好的方法就直接开话筒了哈。So please turn on your microphone. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. Just unmute your microphone and you're good to go.
Sorry, to add up a little bit, there's people sending me through private chat,
Sure.
so it's not through the public chat. So something I'm gonna answer first is there's people asking me how can I share my experiences, how to like motivate me to apply to medical programs. When did you start as an ESL student and with a bumpy start in science and math? What was the turning point? So yeah, what's the passion about medical programs is I find my students really good at biology. My biology average, my chemistry average was like a really huge difference. And I'm really interested in physiology, stuff like medical fields, and I really wanted to help others. Like I don't want to see them struggle with diseases. And being said, my grade 8 in another place, my science was even lower than this. So I use something called Kahan Academy. If you can figure that out, they have an app. They have really good preparation for you for science. It's really good pace and strategies for you to study your science. And just there's no other ways for study. You just gotta study hard. But being study hard, you also have to study smarter, right? So for especially for science, to having a further understanding than the people who are in the same age than you. You just when you see a question, you ask yourself why. So like, why is this thing a gas? Being said, what is going to be a reaction to this molecule or something like that? Just think way beyond your point. And whenever you have something that you don't understand, feel free to reach out to your teacher, your peers, search it up online. There's no other tricks for studying to being good at science or math. You just have to find the ways that suit you the best. And another question I've been asking is, why is nursing so competitive? 这是一个中文的问题，那我拿中文讲一下，拿英文讲一下。
用中文讲可以。
Okay. 是这样的，对于 nursing 来讲，其中一个占比挺大的原因，就是因为 nursing 是不局限于国际学生的，就是说，不是不基于本地学生的，就是如果你是 international students，你也可以去 apply to nursing。就是很多人想从事医疗方面的领域的话，但他们又没有这边的就是 PR card 或者什么东西的话，他们很多人就会 consider nursing。而且护理是一个也是非常热门的专业，也是很多人乐意去当一名护士啊、护工啊这些方面的人。在这方面的来讲的话 ，nursing 也是选拔尖里的拔尖的人。好的 nursing program 在加拿大也就这么几个，所以说他们也会去挑最适合这个职位的人，因为你成为一名护士，你需要具备的素质有很多，对吧？所以说竞争激烈这么大，就是因为很多人想去成为护士，但是但是大学收取的那些人，他们要去培养出最拔尖的那一批人，所以这就是为什么说竞争力会非常大。
Oh, by the way, if I may just butt in here really quickly,
Yeah, I finished my questions.
I saw somebody in the chat there above ask if this slideshow would be available for view later. Henry, I don't know if you have any plans regarding that, but I can also, if anybody wants to send me an email, I would also be happy to attach it. I believe I am the owner of the slideshow right now. Yeah.
I mean, feel free to send whoever needs the slides via email. Yeah.
I think I already have 5 in here, so yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Just unmute yourself and tell us who you're asking as well, and we will be happy to take them.
Actually, there was a question written in Chinese. Hold on a sec. I saw that question. Yeah.
There's one I replied, not the business one.
There's one earlier.
Is that the main?
Yeah, it was written in Chinese. 尽量在11年级修一些12年级的课，必修课和选修课的商量是规定了的，怎么安排？我觉得他好像是问商业吧，必修课和选修课的商业，我没太读懂这句话，坦白讲。
应该是说的，因为在高中的时候，9年级、10年级、11年级的话，有固定的选修课和个别的一些空间是去做必修课，个别空间去做选修课的。所以说他的意思应该就是说，如何去安排这些时间。如果说希望在11年级修掉12年级的课的话。
Okay, sure. Do you want to go ahead?
I mean, I replied it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. But I'm not too sure about the co-op part. Eric, do you know anything about co-op and AP?
Co-op in high school, I'm unfortunately not familiar with that. And I didn't do the AP program, although if anybody has questions about the IB program, I can speak to that.
Well, I can talk about the AP program a bit. So I'll try to be bilingual, but really quickly. The AP program, I mean, unlike IB, right? You can take the AP exams with your school or maybe outside of your school. So it doesn't really matter, right? It's the same, right? You're taking the exams at your school or maybe outside of your school. The result will be the same, right? Whether it would be useful or helpful with your Canadian university application, it depends. I would recommend that you go on to the AP official website. There's a web page. If you don't know where to find it, send us an email. I can send you a URL to that web page. The web page basically tells you which universities recognize the AP exams as a credit you can use for your university. 那中文就是这样，它 AP 呢是说它跟 IB 不太一样哈，因为 IB 它是一个相对封闭的，这个你必须要在 IB 的学校才能完成哈。AP 它是一个相对开放的一个 program。所以当然你可以在你自己的学校去选择考试，你也可以在校外去考试。那对 AP 来说是 这两个是没有任何区别的。那至于这个 AP 的考试对你的这个加拿大的大学申请有没有帮助，这个是要看具体情况哈。那 AP 的官网上其实它有一个网页，那个里面呢是告诉你哪一个大学对于某一个 AP 某一个 AP 考试，它可不可以给你这个学分啊？换句话说，就是你在这个大学里面可不可以免修这门课啊？那这个是你上大学之后的影响。那在你大学申请之前，通常来讲 AP 这样的program 对你大学申请是有影响的，而且是正面的影响，尤其是美国的大学啊。美国的常春藤大学里面呢，它其中有一个这个评分的这么一个选项，叫 course difficulty， 就是你的选课难度啊。那通常来讲，就是 AP 或者 IB program 被认为它的这个课程难度是高于一般的我们的所谓的这种provincial 或者是在美国是 state level 的这种 curriculum， 好吧？Okay, Eric, there's a question for you. Did you take AP courses?
So I did not take any AP courses, no. And you know what? I was actually just responding to a question privately. Thank you for coming, Maggie. I was just responding to a question privately. Somebody asked me if I would have chosen to go to Queen's given the same amount of scholarship. Queen's is an excellent school. It's a great school, great program there as well. Personally, I liked the school culture at Western better. I think it is a bit more diverse here at Western, and I think it's a bit easier to break into the kind of circle of business students here and make your way up through the clubs. Like I think at some schools, the culture can be a little bit that the clubs are very much a group of people who know each other. Whereas at Western, like the application processes and such, I felt were quite competitive. It was very much based on your skills, how you presented yourself, what you'd done before. Obviously, that was my own personal impression. Each person can come to their own conclusion. I also noticed, and I think, again, up for debate, there are endless debates to go back and forth about Queen's versus Western. It's a hotly debated topic, but I think Western does very, very well in terms of placements at the big jobs down in the States and the big consulting firms. Like we're talking big names, like think Evercore, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, stuff like that, right? Western does very well, arguably better than Queen's, although I think it depends on what data you look at. But I thought I would have a better shot at getting big jobs and I guess going a little bit further here at Western. Finally, I just like the fact that Western does 2 and 2, right? 2 years of whatever I wanted to do. So as I private messaged somebody earlier, I did a lot of things, like a wide variety of things. I'm taking history, I'm taking political science, math, computer science, and economics. So I'm very spread out this year. Whereas at Queen's, I would be much more focused on business alone. And I love business, that's why I'm doing it, but I wanted to try some other stuff too. Let's see, I've got some other questions. Yep. Somebody said investment banking clients said Western is #1. If you send me an email, there are some videos and stuff for investment banking as well that I can forward to you. I do believe in Canada, if you want to go down to the States, Western is the best target school in the country for investment banking in specific. Western's actually the only school to place above in the top 30 in North America for how many people we send to investment banking firms down in the United States. We actually placed above some Ivy League schools in terms of how many investment banking placements we got. Do you have to be very good in math to enter a business program? I would say you have to be good at high school math. If high school math is a trouble for you, I would say that's an area that you need to work on. Luckily, high school math is like, it's nothing like studying math at university. Like it's not comparable to like, oh, I'm going to go to Waterloo to do a math degree, right? The course I'm taking right now, the one mandatory course for me in economics is Calculus 1000. And I can tell you that it's not that much of a step up from high school. If you can handle grade 12 calculus, you should be fine. I believe Western Ivy itself doesn't have any additional requirement for math beyond passing either advanced functions or a calculus in grade 12. So you have to have some math knowledge, but it's not like anything crazy. Any other questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or put it out in the chat. We've still got 115 people in here. So if you have anything you want to ask, go right ahead.
Feel free to just unmute yourself. It's okay. It's in Mandarin.
Okay. Yeah. If there are no further questions, I think we're gonna just wrap it here. It's getting pretty late. Thank you everyone for staying late with us. Especially thank you Cynthia and Eric.
Thank you.
Once again, this is a truly thorough, truly insightful, and I'm very impressed, and I'm pretty sure our audience have learned a lot from you guys. So yeah, once again, thank you so much, and thank you everyone, and you all have a good night and a wonderful weekend as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day. Good luck to all of the grade 12s and grade 11s and grade 10s and grade 9s. Hope you can go
Yeah,
your dream school.
yeah.
McMaster was my dream school, and I end up there. Yeah.
Okay. I'll meet you guys at Master or Western.
Yeah, I'll see you guys over here.
Come to Western.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to Western first. Okay, guys, thank you. I'm gonna end this meeting. All right, bye.
Do you have any questions? I think there's somebody on. Yeah.
A question for Western.
Yeah.
How's Western's art program? Because I want to go to Ivy, but like first 2 years, I want to do like visual arts or something.
I'm not specifically sure as to the rankings for art programs. I can try and, if you send me an email, if you have already, that's great. I can try and direct you as to some resources that might give you a bit of insight on that. And let me just check if you can do, if you're interested, Western Ivy also has an option for a dual degree. So you can get 2 degrees in 5 years. And yes, they do offer dual degrees for HBA and then art. So how you would do it is you do year 1 and 2 of the arts and humanities curriculum. In year 3, you'd do HBA. And then in year 4 and 5, you'd do a combination of arts and humanities and the HBA business. And you'd graduate in 5 years with 2 undergraduate degrees. So if you're interested in something that might combine business and art, it can be good to have that extra degree on there for you.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm really into arts management. And
I think you asked me that question earlier. I think
yeah.
I'm not, because art management is a bit of a niche program, so I'm not particularly informed on it either. I can try and find some resources to send to you. Send me an email and clarify that that's your, that you're the art management situation specific. I'll see what I can do. And, but I think Ivy's 5-year program, 5 years, 2 degrees, right? I don't know what the dual degree programs are like at other schools, but Ivy has a very good business program, right? That's the management part of art management. And I think Western's a good school, broadly speaking, and I'm sure its arts program is up to scratch as well, but I will look into that for you if you send me an email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Have a good one. Bye.
Dude, thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're down to 30.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, Cynthia, Eric.
Oh, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys.
Thank you for letting us
this,
speak.
this is great. This is great.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay. We'll be talking more.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Good luck. Have a good night.